בחרמון נמס השלג בחצי הלילה, בחרמון זורם לו פלג בחצי הליל. אבא שם על הר השלג בחצי הלילה, שר שירים על נס בפלא עם כל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. בבקעת תמר פורח בחצי הלילה, הירח שם זורח בחצי הליל. שם אחי ודאי שומע בחצי הלילה את שירנו השמח כאן בישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. במדבר הולך החושך בחצי הלילה, שקט הס בארץ גושן בחצי הליל. לדודי עיני נחושת בחצי הלילה, וגם הוא חוגג כמו שכל בית ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. ואני יושב בבית בחצי הלילה, עם נרות וגביע יין בחצי הליל, וכוכב מאיר עיניים בחצי הלילה, לי מוסר ברכת שמיים ולכל ישראל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. האביב שוב צוהל ואיתי משתולל, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה לילה, איזה ליל. שוב צוהל.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячий хотар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння, різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар.
Army
Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and welcome back to the breaking news. I'm currently not accompanied by Enforcer Matt at the moment, but Enforcer Matt should be arriving back in a second. He was away from the house when this attack happened, and we will be making sure to try and cover as much information as we have about the attack that is happening right now. But at this very moment, while we were coming live on stream, 200 Iranian ballistic missiles have been fired from the area of western Iran, targeting the state of Israel and impacting a large amount of Israeli sites, with the interceptors, from what we understand at this moment, being overwhelmed, along with an air defense perimeter created by the Israeli Air Force and the United States Air Force as well. This attack has been absolutely major. It's been one of the largest ones that we've seen so far, and it appears that the damage may also be very significant as well, as a large amount of Iranian cruise missiles were documented to be able to hit their targets within the territory of the state of Israel, and it appears that things are going very concerningly at the moment. But we will be covering all of the news we have up till this point. We will also be trying to get y'all all of the updates we can while this is going on. And so, starting off with our first clips, we were able to see that around 30 minutes ago, Iranian ballistic missile launchers near to the area of Kermanshah and all the way up towards the area of Tabriz began to fire off a large amount of ballistic missiles towards the state of Israel. We were able to get a large amount of footage from the ground inside of Iran showing these launches as they were occurring, such as this clip right here. And we can see a large volume of Iranian ballistic missiles being fired simultaneously from their launch batteries right outside the city of Tabriz as they start flying on their way towards the state of Israel. That's the end of that clip, one of the little bits of information that we have from the area of Tabriz. And meanwhile, scattered all the way in between Kermanshah and Tabriz along the western Iranian border near to Iraq and Turkey, we were also able to see from other sources that more missiles have been launched and are making their way towards the state of Israel. We were able to see these right here, somewhere around Kermanshah. And that's the end of that clip right there, but once again showing more missile launches. We also got to see another large volume of missile launches being made in the area as well, heading towards Israel. Once again, these are being filmed from inside of western Iran as they are just being launched. And that's the end of that clip right there, but once again showing us some of the launches. And then finally, one of our last clips was a launch of even more missiles from the area of Kermanshah right here, which you can see right there on film. According to an IDF spokesperson who just made a statement about 2 minutes ago, 200 ballistic missiles were fired from the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran directly towards the state of Israel. We were able to hear that dozens of aircraft from the United States Air Force and the Israeli Air Force were airborne over the area of eastern Syria and also airborne over different areas throughout the Middle East, most likely trying to conduct interceptions against the Iranian ballistic missiles that were now flying into Syrian and Iraqi airspace and were soon to be flying through Syrian and Jordanian airspace, entering the area around Israel. The Israeli air defense was immediately mobilized, and we were able to hear that Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 ballistic missile interceptors were already firing very early on in the attack, within the first 10 minutes, most likely trying to intercept ballistic missiles that were flying in over the horizon and were not even popping up on most Israeli air defense radars at that point. Nevertheless, we were able to hear that missiles were once again getting incredibly close to Israeli airspace, and we were able to get additional footage from inside of the Kingdom of Jordan, once again showing a very high number of Iranian ballistic missiles flying on their way over Jordan and into the state of Israel, which we have footage of right here. We can see an interceptor, and possibly an Arrow 2, flying into the pack of missiles that was flying over Jordan at that time and attempting an interception, along with several others. That's the end of that clip right there. Once again, showing us the missiles as they were flying into the state of Israel, and then we got an insanely high amount of footage from inside of Israel. But while that footage was coming out, we were getting statements from cities such as Haifa, from the mayor of Haifa, stating that they were very concerned that Hezbollah may also join in on an overwhelming rocket attack against the state and end up causing significant damage. Here's the statement from the mayor of Haifa. Hello, at the end of the situation assessment with the Home Front Command, there's a high probability that Hezbollah will join the ballistic missile launches from Iran and try to launch launches into our region. I appeal to you to be alert and watchful, to avoid going to places that are not necessary, and to comply with the defense instructions of the Home Front Command. Whenever an alarm sounds, you must enter the protected spaces within 60 seconds and stay in them for at least 10 minutes. Avoid going out for the purpose of documenting interceptions. The risk of being hit by shrapnel can kill. Be sure to lock the doors and windows of the hermetically protected space, shared buildings where there is a shared shelter. I appeal to you to leave the entrance door to the building open to allow passersby to take shelter and protect themselves. That was a statement from the mayor of Haifa as the attack was still underway, and Iranian missiles were flying from somewhere in Syria towards Israel. We were also able to get an additional statement from on the ground, and really quickly, one second, everyone. Hang on, everyone. We actually got to get Enforcer Matt into the call very quickly. Things are being done very ad hoc at this moment. And Matthew, are you in the call?
Yes, I am here.
All right, so welcome in, Enforcer Matt. At the moment, Matthew, I've gotten through all of the news that we have at this moment of the Iranian launches happening within western Iran, their flight over the Middle East and into Syria, and now we're moving on into the statements of the Israeli officials on the ground, and then the actual strikes and interceptions that we've seen around the area of Tel Aviv and all the way down to Be'er-Sheva, just to give you a little bit of an update on how far the news has come along.
All right, good deal. It looks like it's really going down right now. I've gotten to look at some of the preliminary information and also the videos as well. This kind of caught me off guard, I'll be honest with you. I was getting out to do some errands, but it looks like a very large attack, much larger than one that we just saw in April. So this looks like it could be an act of war based on what I'm looking at here.
This is an act of all-out war, and we've also been getting a lot of Israeli statements that are showing that this is entirely going into a full-scale conventional war in the entirety of the region. Even going against our analysis, we expected that the Iranians would not respond to the Israeli invasion of southern Lebanon, considering that the Israelis had put out such a severe ultimatum yesterday, but it appears that they are going to test the waters and most likely end up suffering a severe amount of damage and losses because of their poor actions. But moving on from that and on into the next piece of news that we have inside of Israel at this moment, we were able to finally see that something bizarre was happening on the ground. And I can't really show you all a lot of this. YouTube wouldn't like it if we did. But while the missiles were being launched from Iran, a shooting was occurring inside of Tel Aviv by a group of what we would assume to be proxy forces supported by Iran, or in better words, a terrorist force supported by Iran, that began a shooting on multiple people at a train station within central Tel Aviv. We can actually see the weapons that they're equipped with right here. It appears that this person is equipped with a short-barreled AR-15 with a Trigicon ACOG scope or something similar. And according to the information that we have, these gunmen have killed 3 people and are now at large due to the airstrikes that are happening on Tel Aviv at the moment and the chaos that is ensuing. We assume that they are most likely affiliated with Hezbollah or Hamas, but nevertheless, this is a situation that was going on while the missiles began to arrive inside of Israeli airspace. We would show more video, pictures, and footage of that attack. That was a very well-documented attack because of all the security cameras surrounding the area, but all of that is incredibly graphic, and YouTube would not allow us to show that on air. If you do want to see that, though, I do believe that we have some additional information on Twitter about that attack at the moment, but we will not be able to show that here on YouTube. But moving on from that and into the rest of the news that we have inside of Tel Aviv at the moment, we were able to see that a large amount of interceptions were occurring and sirens were blaring throughout the entirety of the city as the Iranian rockets were almost arriving.
הנה אזעקות בתל אביב, אנחנו עומדים מתחת לגשר, מלא אנשים פה, מלא אמבולנסים. וואו, מה זה היירוטים האלה?
And in our next clip here,
You know what's kind of interesting, Enforcer, is they sent in ballistic missiles from Iran, and these missiles are not as fast as the drones and also other munitions that were sent in back in April. Back in April, that was much faster. It arrived in Israel pretty quick. But these had a 12-minute lead time on them before they actually entered Israel's airspace and hit their targets. So it's kind of interesting that some of these did make it through the air defense systems, and it seems to have saturated the Iron Dome and also David Sling's system, considering they had such a heads up of 12 minutes.
Yeah, it was very interesting to see that, and we're actually about to get into a lot of that footage here in a second because most of it is very shocking. Y'all haven't even seen it yet, but when we show it to y'all will be very shocked because an incredibly high number of Iranian ballistic missiles actually made it through the air defense this time and began to strike targets inside of Israel. But getting through the rest of this clip right here.
אפשר לראות אנשים עומדים, צלמים.
And that's the end of that clip right there, but once again showing the air raid sirens going off and the chaos that was ensuing inside of the city. And finally, we started to see that Iranian ballistic missiles began to enter the airspace directly over Israel, and we got a lot of footage of the incoming missiles along with the incoming interceptors as well, attempting to destroy these ballistic missiles. That's one of the clips, and we also got this right here showing us that the entire area of central Israel was blanketed with air raid alerts, and a little bit later on we also got to see that the entire state of Israel was largely blanketed with air alerts as well, if I can try and get that footage. Matthew, did I hear like a yelp out there? Is everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine out there. It's just a little chaotic. The corgis are very upset by this whole incident right here.
Apparently so, but moving on from that and into our next bit of footage, we also got to see more footage of the interceptors that work over the area of Tel Aviv. We can see some of the missiles have been hit and are already breaking up above the city, but we can see that several of them, 3 of them right there, were able to make it through, along with dozens other that we saw off on the horizon just for a quick second or two.
Also, Enforcer, a piece of breaking news that has just come out right now. I'm not sure how far you've gotten into covering the American response to this entire situation, but keep in mind, we have a lot of assets in the region right now, U.S. assets. We have carrier strike groups, we have all kinds of ships, we have all kinds of aircraft out there right now. So the U.S. presence in the Middle East is very heavy right now. We're hearing that the U.S. has now ordered the U.S. military to shoot down any and all Iranian missiles going across the Middle East at will. So that is now open and wide open to shoot down any Iranian missiles flying through the air. And also, we are told for a fact the U.S. did help Israel intercept some of the missiles that were just fired a moment ago, and apparently there's another volley being expected that will be coming from Iran either in the next hour or so, or maybe sooner than that. So it looks like it's still going down.
And thank you for sharing that breaking news update, as we were able to get confirmation just 5 minutes ago that the United States government, according to the Office of the President, has given permission to the United States Armed Forces to engage and destroy Iranian ballistic missiles and other airborne objects flying over the Middle East towards the state of Israel at this moment. It appears that the United States response has been authorized, and we've already been able to hear that the United States Air Force has been involved in the interceptions that were occurring in limited numbers over Syria, Iraq, and Jordan, as these missiles were airborne and flying on their way into the state of Israel. It does appear that the United States Armed Forces will be backing up the state of Israel entirely, and it also seems as though we are getting a heavy amount of bots. And let me make sure to just go through and try and clear a couple of them out right here, because it seems as though the chat is getting overrun at the moment from bots. And let's see here. Someone said Iran isn't in trouble, America is. We will glass these people. But moving on from that and into our next piece of news, and we'll be trying to move us on into the rest of the interceptor footage, we can also see that more interceptors were in action over Tel Aviv just a little while ago. And here's the footage of those interceptors as well.
A deadly fireworks display over Tel Aviv. Goodness, there was an impact just to the left of us here.
We see more missiles raining down on the city of Tel Aviv, and once again, interestingly enough, it seems as though the Israeli interceptors were actually either taken off guard or were completely overwhelmed by the sheer volume of missiles that were flying into the area, as we began to see a massive amount of impacts being made into the area of northern Tel Aviv, and it was an insanely high amount. And I'll be showing you all this footage right here. This is the highest video quality that we can get, by the way. It's 256p. But we can see the impacts in the distance there just a second ago. We can also hear the sounds of the explosions in the distance. But you see some interceptors successfully hitting Iranian ballistic missiles over the city. And some of them also breaking up right over the cameraman. And that video
honestly
clip,
unbelievable, like, to see this. Really, like, this, the scope of this attack is actually much larger than I was even expecting. Like, if Iran didn't have the guts to go through with this, which obviously they did, this was not the level of attack I was expecting. I was expecting something very similar to what we saw in April. I'm not sure about you, Enforcer, but this attack to me is just unprecedented. Like, I was not expecting this large of a situation, and I think Iran has just gone all the way. Like, I'm not sure if they could have done much worse.
Yeah, interestingly enough, they actually did fire a larger amount of ballistic missiles during this attack than they did in the last one. And also the last attack, including the drones and ballistic missiles, the Israelis had about a 40-minute warning notice of the incoming attack, because the Iranian drones were having to fly a certain amount of a distance across the Middle East, so that way the drones and the missiles would both enter the airspace at the same time. I believe that there was something around 600 Iranian drones that were flying into Israel during that attack, or it was about 300 or so. I forgot the exact number, but there was only about 100 ballistic missiles that were fired during that attack. This attack had 200 ballistic missiles, and it seems as though, in terms of ballistic missiles and also the downtime, which was only 12 minutes compared to 40, they are having a much more difficult time dealing with 200 ballistic missiles traveling across the entirety of the Middle East in 12 minutes than they did with 300 drones and 100 100 ballistic missiles traveling across the Middle East in about 40 minutes. So it seems
And
as though...
Also, another thing as well is, apparently, according to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, take this for what you will, because they do lie quite a bit, but apparently this was the first wave of attacks on the quote-unquote occupied territories. In other words, the sovereign country of Israel. This was their first wave of attacks. So apparently they're expecting more attacks to happen pretty shortly from the Iranian side, and we're seeing the Israeli side really ramp up as well. They're basically vowing the utmost response to Iran. And also, Enforcer, I'm not sure if you covered this as well, but it looks like Iraq as well as Jordan has closed their airspace airspace, and that could indicate that Israeli aircraft are about to use that airspace to go cross over to Iran and then go strike them with their fighter jets. That could be the case, but it looks like Israel is definitely going to have a response. We're also hearing from some U.S. senators who sit on the intel committees that Israel has basically said they're going to go over there and light them up with everything they've got. So it sounds like it's definitely going to be a huge escalation. And also Israelis have been ordered to the shelters. It looks like actually they were just let out of the shelters in some areas of Israel. But let's see here, trying to read this as we're going here. It looks like it's believed that the attack is over for now, but it could be restarting here shortly. So they've been let out of the shelters as of right now.
And we'll be making sure to try and stay on air for as long as possible to cover any of the breaking updates that we're going to be having that are most likely going to be coming out here very soon. But moving on from that and into the rest of the footage we were able to compile, we were able to see a massive load of impacts being made on Tel Aviv. We see the large number of Iranian ballistic missiles streaming down from the skies, and we can see the flashes of explosions in the distance over that hill, showing that these Iranian missiles did in fact hit their targets. We can see more of these missiles raining down onto the city of Tel Aviv. We see some of them being hit by interceptors, but a decent amount of them still making contact with the ground and exploding on top of their targets. With that, that's the end of that footage right there. And moving on into our next clip, we were also able to see more footage of impacts hitting the city of Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv appears to have been the priority target for Iranian strikes, and we can see that right here.
Okay, okay, guys, we got to get off the roof. These are coming down right next to us here. They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
And that's the end of that clip right there. And moving on into our next piece of news, we were also able to see more impacts hitting the area around Tel Aviv in different clips. And here's this one. We see an impact right there in the distance. We're not really sure if that one was a dud, because that one did hit, but we did not see any flash of an explosion. Well, we can actually hear the explosion right there, so it must have gone off, but we did not see the flash. But that's the end of that clip, but once again showing a heavy volume of these ballistic missiles actually making it into Tel Aviv, and not only making it in, but also hitting large areas around the city as well, causing a significant amount of damage and an unknown number of casualties at this moment. We were also able to hear...
Also, by the way, Enforcer, I saw Happy Dragon mention, do we have any casualties counts as of yet? And also I heard you mention the casualty number right there. It sounds like at the moment, according to the Israeli Red Cross, from what I'm seeing, it appears there were 0 casualties in this attack. Of course, that is preliminary. They really haven't had a chance to go out and survey the whole situation yet, but it sounds like no casualties as of right now, which is obviously a very good thing. But also another piece of breaking news I just saw as well. It appears that Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei was also rushed to a secure location in a bunker just a moment ago in anticipation for an upcoming Israeli retaliatory strike of large scale. So that's currently going on as well. And I was just looking here to see if there was maybe some more information. The IDF just confirmed as well that it will respond to the Iranian attack at an appropriate time. So they're not specifying how soon that response is going to come, but it will be very soon, though. It's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be days off. It'll probably be sometime in the next few hours in my current assessment. I'm not sure if the Enforcer agrees with that or not, but I think it will be pretty soon.
It will be pretty soon, most likely. And also right there, to show you all this, we did see that the entirety of Israel, for the large part, every single populated settlement, had air raid sirens going off. We also know that the Upper Galilee area around Haifa also had air raid sirens going off as well, although that's not documented here on this map. So largely the entire state of Israel was blanketed with air raid sirens going off while this attack was ongoing, and it also suggests that the Iranians were trying to hit a wide variety of targets throughout the area of the entire nation and try and cause as much damage as physically possible. We were also able to see more video footage of Iranian missiles impacting Israel. And this was probably the craziest one so far, because we don't know where this was, but it was an insane volume of missiles that made it through and were hitting a single focalized point inside of Israel. So here's that footage.
That wouldn't be the Negev Desert, would it? It kind of looks like the same area.
I'm not really sure, actually. Like, that was kind of the mystery with this one. We don't really know where this one was, and we don't know if it was geolocated, but if it was the Nevatim Air Base, that means that the Nevatim Air Base may have suffered incredibly serious damage just due to the volume of missiles that were able to hit the base and explode onto it. But once again, we put that marker here right now, just east of Ashdod, because we don't really have an exact geolocation of that one at this moment. But we were also able to hear of more impacts being made as well in Israel, which we were able to see in this clip right here.
Yo,
And that's the end of that clip. But once again, showing us a severe amount of hits being made in a southern area of Israel. The exact location is unknown at the moment because these two clips are actually largely the same strike, but just from different angles. Meanwhile, inside of Jerusalem, we were also able to see that missiles were flying over the West Wall as well, making their way on into the country. And while we watch this clip, I have been told by Matthew that we have more breaking news. And Matthew, what do we have?
All right, so this was just confirmed a moment ago. Apparently, some of the targets of the Iranian missiles were apparently launched at the Dimona nuclear reactor inside of Israel. It looks like that was one of the targets of the missile attacks, and it looks like right now, it did confirm that is in the Negev desert of southern Israel. So that could have been what we saw in that last video we just saw right there. But right now, it's unknown if the facility has suffered any impacts. So we do have confirmation, though. The Iranians were trying to take out a nuclear reactor inside of Israel, and right now, it's not clear what damage has been caused, but that's quite a serious thing. And keep in mind that Israel's already said that if Iran went through with their attack, which they now have done that, they followed through with the attack in a very large way, much larger than expected. Israel promised to wipe out all of Iran's nuclear facilities. That's what they promised to do. They promised to hit them all and try to blow them up to end their nuclear program. So we probably will be seeing retaliatory strikes on those facilities inside of Iran. And Iran apparently decided to do the same thing to Israel, but it's not clear if they succeeded just yet.
Very big news right there, and I got to thank you so much for sharing that with us, Matthew, because I was trying to also look around and find some stuff as well, because so much is going on at this moment. But also, we were able to get a statement from the Israeli Ministry of Defense, specifically an Israeli official, saying that Iran will face a harsh response for tonight's missile attack. We do not know what that harsh response will be or when that counterattack will occur by the state of Israel, but it does appear that that is a certainty at this point that such a thing will happen. An Israeli strike against the Islamic Republic of Iran in retaliation for their attack that's happening right now will be occurring here in the near future. We were also able to get a statement from the Iranian leadership that apparently, according to them, the regime in Tehran announces they have fired the ballistic missiles against Israel in the revenge for Israel killing Nasrallah, Haniyeh, and Nilfaroshan. Although we've never heard this guy mentioned before, apparently now he's a big deal. But nevertheless, we are getting an idea that a complete regional war has now begun in the entirety of the Middle East. It spans from Israel into Lebanon, and from Israel and Lebanon across to the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is the worst case scenario that we could have looked at this moment in terms of escalation in the region, and it appears that it was a completely unavoidable scenario, as we saw that multiple times United States peacekeepers attempted to try and make peace in the region and bring both sides into some sort of an uneasy peace, but no matter how hard they tried, the Iranians would refuse the peace agreement, and then whenever the conditions were amenable to the Iranians and their proxies, which was pretty much giving them everything that was not amenable to the Israelis, and the Israelis would refuse the peace deals. It seems that this area will be embroiled in war for an incredibly long time, and the amount of devastation and damage that may be caused as a result of this conflict may be incredibly severe. But one thing we do know is that the United States and the Western world will come out on top and prevail in this conflict. The United States has a large amount of interest secured in this region, not only in the state of Israel, but also in the Kingdom of Jordan, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, and also some parts of Syria as well. The United States and this great republic will ensure that every single measure can be taken to secure American and Western interests in this region, and the Islamic Republic of Iran will probably soon come to regret their actions that have been made over the past year and the actions of this fateful night, as the United States and the State of Israel will make sure to use every available measure to respond to this instance and to make sure that the Iranian government and a rogue nation is brought to heel. But a very very wild piece of news at that. And it seems as though many of y'all have been talking right now about other nations outside of the Middle East and the United States and Israel. And will other countries such as Russia and China attempt to get involved in the Middle East now that a war it has actually arrived and we are watching the beginning of a full-scale war in this region? And it seems that many are saying no and some are saying yes. But Matthew, what are people saying and what are you thinking about that?
All right, so this is a very big question right here, and the opinions are apparently quite split on this question. Will other countries such as Russia and China get involved in the Middle East now that war is indeed here? And in my opinion, even though an official declaration of war has really not been made by either Iran or Israel, in my opinion, this would qualify as war, in my opinion. But it's up to y'all to decide that. But it looks like 56% said no, Russia and China will not get involved just because the war is here, and 45% said yes, they will get involved. And we do know for a fact that Russia said this morning they issued a statement for their foreign ministry demanding that Israel withdraw their troops out of southern Lebanon. They demanded that happen or else. And we're really not sure what the or else could be because right now Russia is tied up inside of Ukraine right now quite heavily. And also they're trying to defend their mainland as well from Ukrainian incursions. So Russia really doesn't have the forces to really throw around to do anything in reality, but they do have missiles and they do have nuclear weapons. So that is a concern. And on China, I'm really not sure at all if they'd get involved here. I think if anyone was to get involved, it probably would be Russia first and maybe China sometime later down the road, but I have some doubts about that. But me, honestly, I'm kind of unsure and undecided, but I forgot to add that option to the poll, so sorry about that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that at this moment, it's a little bit hard to tell what is going to happen. I hate saying that, but things are very unpredictable these days. We actually predicted yesterday that the Iranians were most likely not going to get involved and not conduct a major strike like this on the state of Israel, and that analysis was completely wrong in this channel as they immediately began to conduct those attacks about 16 hours after we made those statements. So at the moment, we don't really know what is happening I don't know what's happening in the Middle East to be able to give you all a clear, definitive statement on what will be happening next. The Russian Federation could attempt a support of the Islamic Republic of Iran, or at least try and deliver some sort of ultimatums to Israel to stop them from striking Iran, but we don't really know if the Russians will do that at this point or not. We assume that the Chinese will most likely just tell both sides, please don't shed blood, let's have peace, because that's what they always do in every single war so far, so that's probably what they'll be doing, but they will not get actively involved in issuing ultimatums or joining one side or the other. So really the only country that we have to worry about in that regard would be the Russian Federation and what their response would be and what they're going to be doing. We would assume, based off of a generally logical assumption, although this war right now isn't working off of logical assumptions, that the Russian Federation would not get involved due to a lack of finance, a lack of manpower and supplies, and also many other things that are currently being consumed by the war in Ukraine. For those reasons, we would believe that the Russian Federation would not get involved at all in supporting the Islamic Republic of Iran and the State of Israel. But at the same time, however, we have seen that while the Islamic Republic of Iran would be ill-suited to try and launch a major strike on Israel, they just did, and we're actually talking about that here at this moment. And so it's entirely possible that the Russians may also work off an illogical framework and also end up deciding to join the war directly in the support of the Islamic Republic of Iran and start to conduct actual armed actions against the State of Israel and possibly other Western-aligned nations within the Middle East. But it seems that there is a lot going on, and a lot of people are already saying that there's apparently another wave of missiles that are being launched at this very moment and are making their way towards the State of Israel. And so I'll be checking really quickly to see if we have any information on that. That may just be a tremor of the attacks that just happened a moment ago. Matthew, do you have any info?
So right now, it appears the attacks have come to a momentary pause. It looks like Israel has reopened their airspace, and it appears to be. We haven't gotten any official statements from Israel just yet, but it sounds like the Iranians might be holding off on either secondary attacks or third attacks for the moment. That does not mean that they're not going to happen, but it appears for the temporary time being that Israel believes it's safe enough to reopen their airspace, and people have been let out of the bunkers inside of Israel. So based on that, it appears that right now there is no longer any expected attacks from Iran. And right now, we're waiting to see what the Israeli response is going to be to this, because right now, the supreme leader of Iran is currently holed up in a bunker right now, and the entire government of Iran is on high alert, waiting for some type of response, because they know a response is coming. Israel has notified the U.S., and they've notified all the allies that a major response is going to happen. That's a certainty at this point. It's just a matter of timing when that's going to happen. So the airspace of Iraq and Jordan is still closed, indicating that it could happen at any moment. So we'll just have to wait and see.
And we're seeing right now that we actually have gotten additional information that is very concerning, and I will be sharing this with you all at the moment. Many of y'all will have seen the video that we just showed a little while ago of major strikes happening by dozens of Iranian missiles onto a single focalized area. According to information that we have at this moment, that was actually the Nevatim Air Base that was being hit by dozens of missiles, and from what we understand, the Nevatim Air Base may be seriously damaged or entirely knocked out as a result of the attack. I'll be showing y'all additional footage that we were able to get at the time of the damage that was being caused and the impacts that were being made by the Iranians on the Nevatim Air Base. And so here is the clip.
A lot of impacts.
Incredibly high amount of impacts.
I just don't understand how there are so many impacts, though, because according to what we know right now, apparently 200 ballistic missiles were fired in total from the Iranian side, and I'm not sure how 200 ballistics were able to overwhelm the Iron Dome, David Sling, and all the other air defense systems. And also keep in mind, the U.S. had fighter jets in the air helping to shoot some of these things down as the attack was happening. So I'm not sure how these were able to get through and make so many impacts, considering the fact that last time, back in April, there weren't so many ballistic missiles being used. It was more of drones and munitions like that. They shot most of everything down. There's only like a couple of impacts. So I'm not sure what happened this time to cause the system to fail quite like it did in this video.
It is really impressive how it did fail, but once again, from what we know last time, it was really 40 minutes before the first drones and missiles began to arrive in Israeli airspace, and there was a very heavy US, UK, and Jordanian involvement in Israel's air defense in shooting down, from what we have heard, almost 2/3 of all incoming air targets before the Israeli air defense even had a possibility of engaging them. That's what we knew last time, and so it seems as though the Israeli air defense may only be able to engage about 100 to 150 air targets at a single moment. Otherwise, it's going to end up being overwhelmed. It also seems as though the United States and Jordan can end up intercepting an unbelievable number of missiles and weaponry. Of course, over Jordan and Iraq, I'm trying to make sure to balance a million things at the same time. But still, it seems that the Israeli air defense has a certain limit, just a little over 100 weapons flying into Israel at a single time. We can also see that apparently the Nevatim Air Base is also on fire as well. And then moving on from that clip and into our next one, we can also see some of the Iranian ballistic missiles flying over the Kingdom of Jordan.
على إسرائيل على إسرائيل على إسرائيل
وعلى إسرائيل حلوة على إسرائيل
شوفي لسه
يا حرام
ما شاء الله
البنات
ما شاء الله
خافوا
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
بتضبوا الولاد صغار
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
تخافيش هي حرام دخليها تخافيش بدها تفرق جيبوا ناني
في إشي والله بينزل على الأرض في إشي بخبط
منيح بلاد انتبهت أنا يوم شفت إنه بلشوا على هذا طلعت أشيك سامعين الأصوات؟ بابا وين إله؟ بابا وين؟ بيت إسرائيل
هاي بابا على القدس
سامعين الأصوات الانفجارات؟
These people are awfully calm for this whole situation. You got to give credit for that to be able to remain calm. But also, real quick, Enforcer, we just got a revised estimate here. And remember, all this information is preliminary, so take it with a grain of salt, because currently we've seen reports mainly that there were 200 missiles fired at Israel. That is the going report. But now we're seeing that according to the Jerusalem Post, 400 to 500 missiles were launched at Israel from Iran. So that is currently a new estimate by the Jerusalem Post. So right now, I think it's not really clear exactly how many missiles were fired, but it could have been more than 200. And also, I see some people in the chat saying it looks like way more than 200. And just based on my layman's opinion of looking at the video, it does look like it probably is more than 200. 200 seems like a low estimate, so it could be closer to 500. So that could explain why the system was overwhelmed, if that is the true number. Also, by the way, apparently we're expecting a White House press briefing here very shortly. I'm not sure how soon that's going to happen. I'm trying to find more information on that press briefing, where we'll get a better view of what the U.S. response is going to look like to this entire situation.
And we also have more footage of the incoming strikes and attacks on Israel right here. while we're talking about that. And Matthew, if we can find a way to get that U.S. Press briefing live, I'm sure it's going to be specifically about this attack that's happening in the Middle East at the moment. That would be good if we could show something like that on stream. So if we can find something like that, that would be great. If not, we'll be perfectly fine.
וואו, וואו, וואו. עשרות טילים.
כולם לרדת. אני נמצא בצפון יפקר. רואה שעירותים מעל הראש שלנו. שבילי, ירים מכיוון שבת. ירון מכיוון שבת.
We see more
And
missiles.
Enforcer, I do have a link for you. I'm going to be sending it over Discord. It looks like the press briefing will begin shortly. It doesn't say when, though. It looks like the White House started streaming 41 minutes ago, and they've been waiting ever since then. So apparently, the president is in the Situation Room right now, along with all the advisors, and that's currently why the briefing has been held up. But I'm sending you that link right now, and I'll keep an eye out to see if anything pops up on it.
Got you. And we will be checking out that link, hopefully, right now, actually. We will be checking out that link right now to make sure that we can keep up to date on what we need to be looking for. And so this is the White House press briefing that will be coming out here very soon. Once we see that this actually goes live, which I will not be able to... Actually, I'll bring this over to my second screen, so that way I might be able to watch it there. We will be making sure to throw it over here and let y'all hear what the United States official statements about the situation are at the moment. But with that, here's the rest of the footage that we have. And with that, that's the end of that clip right there. Before we move on to the next one, though, let me make a very quick statement. And also, this is going to be a little bit of an emergency order, so that way Matthew can clear things up. There's going to be absolutely no statement of politics at all in this chat. If you make a deriding comment about a president or a presidential candidate or anything along those lines, or say that you're in support of one party or the other, that is an instant ban at the moment. We have far too much going on to get down there and start coddling people and moderating a chat a little bit too much. So if we see that, that's an instant ban, regardless whether you've been here for years or not. Just putting that out there at the moment. We've got a million things that we're trying to take care of, and one of them that I'm not trying to take care of is a whole bunch of people coming in here like spoiled children and bringing up their domestic political statements and comments. We are trying to cover this news as it's coming out. This channel does not take a political side. We are politically neutral. We do not discuss politics, and I'm not going to have Matthew or myself burdened with trying to moderate that in the chat right now. So the ban hammer's coming down on any political statement whatsoever from this point forward. So moving on from that and into the next clip, we can see more impacts on Nevatim Air Base.
Also, real quick, Enforcer, as well. Unfortunately, we do have some bad news here. It looks like the surveyors have gone out to see what the casualties look like. It sounds like one man might have been killed in the, let's see, maybe in the West Bank. They're not really sure where the location is, but apparently one man was killed from falling debris here. That appears to be one report. But so far, I'm not really seeing like reports of widespread casualties at the moment. It looks like it was pretty limited.
Very interesting to hear. Unfortunate, of course, and I'm sure that casualty report will be climbing. As we see time pass, I'm trying to balance a million things right now because the chat's going insane. But anyways, with that, we're getting on into our next clip where we were also able to see additional attacks heading into Israel. And that's the end of that clip. And moving on into our last one, we were also able to see more impacts making their way into Israel. And with that, that's the end of the clip right there. But very interesting to see that the strikes still are not continuing, but we were able to get additional footage and clips of the strikes as they were coming in. And at the moment, just to keep all of y'all up to date, here is what we've been seeing at the moment. That appears to be a little bit of additional stuff on Twitter that we can't really show. But moving on from that, I will tell y'all everything that has happened so far and the situation that we're dealing with at this moment. About 36 hours ago, the Israeli armed forces began an invasion of southern Lebanon after executing Nasrallah inside of a bunker in Beirut the couple of days before that. We were able to hear that Nasrallah did not die from the bunker being blown up. He actually died from suffocating on toxic fumes that started to fill the bunker after the explosion. Because of this, the Israelis then invaded southern Lebanon, trying to wipe out the rest of Hezbollah that may remain, considering that they're heavily disorganized and no longer have a proper chain of command. The Israelis issued an ultimatum to the Islamic Republic of Iran that if they were to respond in any way or shape or form to get involved in the Hezbollah attack, the Israelis were going to target and destroy Iranian nuclear facilities and also Iranian oil facilities as well. The Islamic Republic of Iran decided to completely throw that ultimatum out of the window, and just about an hour ago, and it was about approximately an hour ago, Iranian ballistic missiles were fired all the way from the area around the city of Kermanshah and all the way up to the area of Tabriz along Iran's western border. These missiles then took 12 minutes to fly over the Middle East, with the United States Air Force and the Iranian Air Force attempting interceptions, and also United States ground forces also attempting interceptions as well of the Iranian ballistic missiles that were fired. Over the course of those 12 minutes, we got a decent amount of video documentation of those missiles flying over different areas of the Middle East, including the Kingdom of Jordan, and then finally they made it into the state of Israel. It appears that initial air defense interception efforts over the entirety of the Middle East were successful, but were not successful in shooting down a high enough number of the missiles. We have been able to report that a heavy amount of damage has been caused to the Nevatim air base near to the city of Dimona in southern Israel. We've also been able to report that multiple ballistic missiles have ended up hitting targets inside of Tel Aviv. The civilian casualties are unknown at this moment. We have heard that the Israeli government has made an official statement declaring that they will make a response to the state of Iran's unprompted and dangerous attack against the state of Israel, and that response will be coming very soon at a time of their choosing. We will be waiting to see when that happens. We are also waiting at the moment for a statement by the United States press secretary at the moment about the situation, as we will probably be getting a large amount of additional news and details about the United States official statements and also the United States response to the ongoing conflict that has now begun in the Middle East. But also to recap the diplomatic situation that we're seeing at the moment, we are seeing that the United States president has already given authorization to United States air and ground forces, as well as naval forces in the region, to engage and intercept any Iranian weapons that are fired over the area from this point forward. We were also told that they were involved in the initial interceptions of the first attack that has already happened. We have also seen that the United States, while not coming out in the press briefing at the moment and making an official statement in support of Israel, has already made actions in support of the state. We have also seen that the Russian Federation has made no statements or involvements whatsoever in the conflict so far, and we are expecting that may remain the case if they work off of a logical framework of their decision-making process, but that may also change as time goes by. We have also seen that the Islamic Republic of Iran has said that this attack is in response to the Israelis killing a large amount of Hezbollah leadership and also killing the guy that was in Tehran a little while ago with a bomb that Mossad planted, and also because Israel blew all of Hezbollah's balls off about a couple of weeks ago. That was the reason why Iran has conducted the strike that we're seeing at the moment. We have not gotten any statements from the People's Republic of China either. It appears that the People's Republic of China is most likely remaining out of the conflict for the large part, and we are seeing that there has been no diplomatic statements made in support or condemnation of either side from the People's Republic of China at this moment. But I have been told that we have even more breaking news, and Matthew, what do we have?
All right, so I got a lot of news rolling in right now, so bear with me while I try to sort through it real quick. Currently, we are hearing that Netanyahu is in a secure underground bunker, even though the attacks have allegedly stopped, according to the Israeli government. He's still in the bunker along with all of his advisors. So that is pretty much an understanding right there. We knew that was the case, but just to reiterate that, he is still in the bunker. We're also hearing as well that Jordan's Air Force has been active in intercepting Iranian missiles tonight, according to an official from the Jordanian government. So Jordan was once again coming to Israel's aid and shooting down missiles that were coming into their territory. Also, another indication here that could be indicating that Iran plans to launch more attacks on Israel in the coming hours. The Iranian media has now urged Iranian citizens not to photograph military movements taking place across all Iranian provinces right now, which may indicate that Iran is currently in the progress of moving around their mobile launchers, which they use to launch these ballistic missiles, indicating they're preparing for another volley of attacks in the future. I'm not sure if they're going to wait for Israel to respond before they launch their next volley, or it could be simply they're going to launch one before Israel's able to respond. We're really not sure just yet, but that does indicate, in my assessment, that they are currently getting ready and preparing for another launch on Israel. and we're not really sure how many ballistics they have left, because right now we've kind of underestimated how much they really had at their disposal. Somehow they've gotten more ballistics than we were aware of, but it could be the same size attack happening in the second volley. We'll simply have to wait and see. But let's see here. Also, I'm seeing that a senior Iranian official tells Reuters that Tehran had informed Russia ahead of missile attacks on Israel. So apparently, Iran went out and said to Russia that they were going to launch this attack, but they really didn't notify anybody else. So very interesting on that front as well. But Enforcer, what say you? Because that's currently all the news I'm seeing.
It seems as though it's a very interesting situation. I'm trying to keep up to date with all the news that's coming out at the moment, and we are getting a decent amount of it still. And it seems as though the situation is going to be fairly serious, very tense, and that's really all I could say at the moment, because I wasn't really able to follow a lot of that because I was trying to get on Twitter and get our map up to date with everything that's going on the ground. And there have been a couple of interesting things that Matthew was able to track down, that I was able to put down on the map and also get updated on, that we're seeing at the moment. We were able to hear that apparently the Russian Federation was informed of the upcoming missile attack by the Islamic Republic of Iran. It appears that the Russians apparently gave it their blessing, which may be showing that the Russians actually may be getting involved in this conflict a little bit later, especially considering that they kind of gave Iran the green light from what we're assuming on this attack that was going to be coming up. We were also told, like Matthew said, Jordanian air defense was active, once again showing that they're within the Western sphere. We were also told that the Iranian government is saying that there should be no pictures taken of military movements inside of their country, highly suggesting that the missiles are the missile launchers are on the move, and also a large amount of Iranian military equipment is shifting around the country at the moment, trying to make sure that they can avoid the latest amount of Israeli intelligence and the upcoming airstrikes that will be happening as a result of that. We are also seeing that, let's see, that's about all the news at the moment. I'm just trying to make sure that I keep track of every single thing. There's a lot going on, folks, so my delivery isn't going to be as polished and perfect as it usually is, where we're able to make it sound like one giant monologue. It's going to kind of sound like a whole bunch of fragments, because it really is a whole bunch of fragments. We're kind of getting in fragments as we're live on air. But
also, Enforcer, I do want you to weigh in on one specific thing here, which I think is actually a much bigger deal than it's currently being made out to be. Like I mentioned a moment ago, Iran has urged the citizens not to photograph their military movements, and that does not indicate they're going back to base. That indicates they're moving around to prepare for another attack, at least in my current assessment. So what do you think? Do you think they're preparing for another volley, or do you think that they're simply asking people to keep OPSEC?
They're probably asking them to keep OPSEC for a myriad of reasons. Probably one of them is that they are getting ready for a second launch of missiles towards Israel. Another reason that they're probably saying that is because a lot of regular Iranian military units are probably moving out of their bases at the moment and elsewhere, because their air defense isn't robust enough to protect themselves from an Israeli counterattack. So they're probably trying to get out of the bases, so that way a lot of their equipment is spared destruction along with their personnel. They could also be saying that because they may actually be moving the launchers alone and just trying to get them out of their prior launch zones, so that way the Israelis don't know where they are and how easily they can be stricken because of that. There could be a load of reasons. Probably one of them, though, is certainly that the Iranians are probably preparing for a second attack against Israel and are preparing another wave of launchers to fire into the state of Israel.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you on that as well. Also, by the way, I don't mean to switch topics so quickly, but the news, like you're saying, is coming in so fast. It's hard to stay on one topic for too long. Did you have a chance to cover the attack that happened? I believe it was in Tel Aviv. There was a shooting attack that took place there right before this volley started going wild from Iran. It looks like several people, actually, the only casualties that we're actually seeing at the moment was from that attack by some, apparently, I'm trying to avoid saying the T word because YouTube is very sensitive about that for some reason. So a bad group of people that want to cause chaos inside of Israel came in there and started shooting the place up. So I was trying to scroll back down, but there's so many posts on our Twitter page right now to try to get that pulled back up. But did you have a chance to cover that at all?
Yes, we did cover that. That was actually, I think, about the time you got on air. I think I covered it literally after I was like, hey, Matthew, what's up? And then I kind of like gave a very quick annotated note about this. We can't talk about this or show a lot about it on air because most of it's too graphic to show from what I was able to see. But these guys right here, apparently there were several of them, were involved in shooting up a Israeli train station or some sort of a metro station in Tel Aviv, and now the death toll has risen to 8. At the moment that this was published, there was only 3 people that were confirmed dead. Now there's 8 people confirmed dead because of these shooters. We believe that these shooters are affiliated with the Islamic Republic of Iran and Iranian-backed proxies somehow, some way, and it is once again showing that they are trying to conduct a massacre of Israeli citizens. And it's a very unfortunate thing to see. It's pretty crazy to see that all of this is going on at the same time, and it's an absolutely insane day of news coverage. It's unbelievable, actually, and it's very hard to keep track of everything that's going on at the moment because we didn't really have a lot of time, downtime or prep time this morning to even get ready for this. I kind of woke up, came downstairs, petted Mosul will work, and then I came in here and sat down on my computer and I went, what's going on out there? And literally as soon as I opened up the computer, the first missiles were being launched from Iran, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a big day today again. And so we've been trying to kind of deal with that from that point forward. So there's been a lot going on out there, to say the least. We've been having loads of stuff happening. So
Enforcer, I got something else for you as well. We've currently been waiting for approximately an hour for the White House to come out and make their press briefing, and I do not think the president is expected to come out at this press briefing. It'll only be the press secretary and also maybe some advisors, according to my current knowledge. So I'm not sure what the holdup is on that. I think they're trying to maybe collect their thoughts or something. But we do have an upcoming Pentagon press briefing, which is also going to be doing it simultaneously with the White House press briefing. Apparently, it'll be in 18 minutes and 19 seconds. And Enforcer, I'm sending you the link to that right now because there is a countdown on their website to how soon that will be. So that might actually be more informative than the White House version of it because they actually have the military knowledge to actually back up their statements. So we'll have to wait and see when that's going to happen.
Got you. And we'll be putting both of these up on screen. We don't know when this one's going to be happening. It can happen at any time. As a matter of fact, we'll unmute this one because if anything does happen, we'll start to hear it and we'll immediately stop covering what we're covering and go right over to the press briefing. So right now, what we know is that there has been an Iranian attack on the state of Israel. I want to make sure to recap this for everyone new who's joining us. There has been a massive attack on the state of Israel. Hundreds of ballistic missiles have been involved. Hundreds of them, from what we can tell, have ended up hitting their targets the side of Israel. The United States has given orders to intercept and destroy any Iranian missiles that are being fired over the region so far. We also hear that the United States Pentagon and the United States Office of the President will be making statements here very soon. The Pentagon is the Department of Defense, so we'll be getting a update from the Department of Defense, and we'll also be getting a update from the United States Office of the President as well. We assume that the Office of the Department of Defense will probably be a lot more helpful in giving us a lot of information to go off of here about what has been happening in that area in technical information and what the response will be. So we'll be waiting for that update probably a lot more aptly than the one from the Office of the President. But nevertheless, we do know that the Israelis will be making a response against the Islamic Republic of Iran. We do not know when. We are going to be waiting for some of that information to come out. And we also have an interesting question that's been asked to all of y'all at the moment as this major news is going on. Do you think Iran has miscalculated by launching this attack on Israel? And this is a really interesting question because it seems as though a lot of people are unanimous about this answer. A lot of people are saying that they certainly have, and Judgment Day will be coming to them here very soon. But Matthew, what are people saying about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so before we get to that poll, which we're about to jump into, but I got another piece of breaking news here. We were just told that Iran has closed its airspace once again, and it is now officially closed once more. So I'm not sure what that might indicate. That would actually, in my opinion, indicate that Iran might be about to launch something else. That's the only reason I think they would close their airspace. They probably wouldn't close it to let Israeli missiles come. I really doubt they would do that, although it is possible. But we are hearing they've closed their airspace once more. We haven't heard Israel close their airspace yet. Apparently, it's open once again for business, but Iran has closed theirs. So, Enforcer, would you like to weigh on that real quick before we jump into that poll?
That's a very interesting bit of news. It is probably showing that the Israelis are probably opening up their airspace so that way civilians can be... I'm not really sure why in the world they would be opening up their airspace. I'm trying to find a way to explain that. I'm not really understanding it at the moment, so that's an interesting bit of news. But what is the poll saying, Matty? What are people saying in the poll?
All right. And also, real quick, let me go check something real quick. I'm told that there's going to be a State Department press briefing that might be going live right now. So let me see if I can spot that real quick. Let's see. It could be live. Let me get this link real quick. Okay, Enforcer. Here's another one you can add to your roster of things to like unmute and wait to see if someone's going to talk or not. I'm going to go ahead and send you the link to this real quick. It's a State Department briefing. All the executive agencies are going to come out here, or the branches are going to come out and start making statements at the same time. That's really good timing. The Pentagon, the State Department, and also the White House. So everyone's going to come out talking at the same time like an absolute shit show. But anyways, jumping into our poll question right here. It says, do you think Iran has miscalculated by launching this at Israel? A pretty easy question, honestly. About 75% said yes, Iran will pay a heavy price, while 9% said no, Iran knows they have allies, and 6% said, the U.S. will talk Israel down. And I think at this point, there's nothing that anybody could say to calm the situation down. Iran miscalculated. They went way overboard. This was not proportional to anything, and Iran had no right to do this. So Israel has been itching to take care of this problem for a long time, and I think this is the opportune time they're going to take to address Iran and also the proxy forces as well. So I'm with the 75%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I'm with the 75% as well. Iran is going to pay a very heavy price, even if it's just Israel that responds alone. And it may end up being that Israel is the only one that ends up responding. That will still be a very serious instance if they do. They are most likely going to lose all of their nuclear research abilities within the next few days. They're probably also going to lose a lot of their oil production abilities within the next few days as well. Things are going to go very badly for the Republic of Iran. And another thing that will probably be going very badly for them is that stupid guy Khamenei with that stupid looking beard that makes him look like a skunk, he'll probably get obliterated as well. And a lot of the Iranian leadership will probably be going the way of, what was the name of that guy, Matthew? Hania? Or something like that, the guy who ran his helicopter into the mountain like an idiot. They'll probably all be going his way as well here very soon. So I would have to 100% say that Iran will be paying a heavy price. And I just saw someone come in the chat, why Harrow said, whoa, Enforcer is live now? Everything must be popping off. And it is popping off. That's why we're live. We just saw, as the title says, Iran launched a massive strike of missiles, hundreds of ballistic missiles against the state of Israel. There were a load of explosions in Israel as well, and we are now hearing that the Israelis have vowed vengeance, and we're also waiting for every damn department in the oh, look, they pushed it back. Look at that, man. There's now 42 minutes. Every single department in the government, pretty much, in the executive branch, is about to be coming out and making a statement all at the same time. So we can't wait for that. There's going to be absolute chaos here in the U.S. government. It probably is chaos in the U.S. government at the moment. If I had to take a good guess at things or a good shot at things, probably absolute chaos. We can see that Iran is closing its airspace at the moment, according to the news that we have coming out at the moment. I'm also going to be taking this off screen so that way I can peruse the news myself. But let's see here. Let's see. Oh, we got people messing around with wreckage of Iranian missiles. Let's see here. Ocean Defender said they need to relax for a second. I wish, man. I wish. We can't relax at all because we got to keep this thing going. Let's see. The Iranian agency Shafak, which is Shak NA, I guess, said that they hit more than 20 F-35s at Nevatim Air Base. We don't know if that's true or not at the moment. That's probably heavily inflated if they hit any of them, for that matter. And we can also see, let's see. We can also see that footage is coming out from the Gaza Strip of the attack. They were able to see the attack all the way from the Gaza Strip. And let's see here. What else? And let's see, apparently the United States was also alerted by the Islamic Republic of Iran just shortly before the attacks occurred, which is why we apparently were able to be involved in the interceptions of the weapons as they were flying in. Let's see here. Let's see.
Honestly, like, even though if Iran notified the United States about their intention to attack or not, we do have intelligence that would show us that they're actually about to do it. We do have sources on the ground. We do have satellite imagery. We have all kinds of things like that that would alert us to that fact. But it is a little bit better to get an actual notification from Iran, but it's not ultimately necessary for the U.S. to be able to properly respond to it. But it is, I guess, helpful. The fact that Iran's notifying anybody at this point is a little bit crazy to me because Iran's going so overboard. They're acting out of control to a point that's even unusual for Iran at this point. So I'm surprised they even notified anyone.
And let's see here. I just saw someone say the 75% are in for a surprise, inshallah. I hope you're joking. I hope you're joking about that, because Iran's about to learn a nice good lesson, a nice smooth lesson. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You want to know what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's happening. So here in about 72 hours at least, there's going to be air raid sirens going off over Iran. There may not even be any, because they may not know the attack is coming. The Israelis are going to use their stealth aircraft, the F-35I Adirs, to start launching strikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran. This means that these aircraft are going to be able to fly straight from Israel, right over Iraq, drop their ordnance, even if they wanted to, right over Iran, and it's going to slam down onto every single base that the Iranians have, every single nuclear research facility, every single oil facility, and probably right on top of the heads of the stupid leaders of Iran, and probably kill them and destroy most of Iran's military abilities, probably all in one fell swoop, or at least most of their strategic abilities that would be able to keep them going in a war long term. People are going to be crying and whining about this, and they're going to say that Israel is a criminal because how dare they respond to a nation that just tried to kill them right now. That's crazy, and we're going to be over here supporting it 100%. We're going to watch as the entire Islamic Republic of Iran goes from an Islamic Republic to a non-existent Stone Age nation that is backwards by about at least 100 years. We'll be watching as there will probably be an insane amount of all sorts of administrative shortages that are going to lead to shortages of every single kind in Iran that you can imagine. There's going to be no electricity, there's going to be no water, there's going to be nothing. And it's not that the Israelis are going to target this outright, it's going to be that the people that ran the electrical grid and the people that made sure that there was clean water in the tap will probably all be dead. Or at least the people who ran those offices of the government will probably be dead as well. And we will see that everyone will whine and complain and cry about it, but the Israelis are going to be putting down a pretty big ass beating on the Iranians. And then if we get involved in the United States, it's going to be completely over. You're probably going to see that the Islamic Republic of Iran truly doesn't even exist at all. You'll probably see that a new government will be coming in sometime around here in the near future. We don't think the U.S. will get involved, but if the U.S. gets involved, the Iranians better pray to whoever they believe in, because I don't think they're even going to be able to save them from what would be coming around the corner. So, with that, I hope that does address that well, inshallah. And with that, Matthew, do we have any additional news that is coming out at this moment?
So yes, we do. We do have some breaking news coming out right now. We are hearing that allegedly a Jordanian home is on fire in the country of Jordan after being hit by debris from an Iranian ballistic missile. So Jordan, of course, did help shoot down some of the missiles that were about to fly over to Israel. It looks like one of those missiles that were shot down apparently over their own airspace, the debris ended up falling onto a home of one of their citizens and burning it to the ground. We have the footage from that, by the way, on the Twitter page. We also have some more footage as well of the actual strikes that were occurring on Israel that were launched from Iran. And also, just a side note as well, since everybody on the channel does like to hear about Ukraine, just a quick note. Apparently, Zelensky just said their ballistic missile passed flight test. Very good news on that front, but not to distract from the major situation happening in the Middle East right now. But Enforcer, do you see that footage?
I'm about to go grab it really quickly. I was making sure to survey all the rest of the footage that we have, but I'm going to be bringing y'all onto Twitter and letting y'all see all the footage that we've been able to compile at this moment. And so there is Zelensky saying that their ballistic missile is ready to go. Yippee. We'll probably cover that a little bit later tonight. We also are able to see some footage that was captured from Kibbutz showing some of the strikes coming in, and we'll be getting to the Jordanian house here in a second. And that's the end of that clip right there. But moving on a little bit further down, we can see the Jordanian house that has been hit by debris and has actually caught on fire, showing the damage has actually happened inside of the Kingdom of Jordan because of the attack, although it's superficial damage at that. We were also able to see that that Palestinians were cheering in Gaza, interestingly enough, while the attack was ongoing. Let's look at all of these nice, well-intentioned people.
مطر من شمال قضاء غزة مرة ما شاء الله ما شاء الله
You know, these people, Matthew, they scream to me a peace-loving people, a sad, innocent people. They've never done anything wrong. They only wish well to the Israelis, you know. They're cheering and screaming just because, you know, they're happy to see that Israel will be able to finally bring the justice upon Iran that is so deserved. These people are just wonderful people, Matthew, and they deserve the protection and duties of everyone in the world to make sure that not only are they protected, but they're able to commit a nice, justified genocide against the people of Israel, because that's what these people really want. Like, if we're being honest here, like, without me being sarcastic about what these people are doing, they are cheering because they are hoping that as many Israeli civilians get killed as possible. And that's what these people are cheering for. And that's why I always find a bit of a disconnect when people are like, oh, the poor, you know, people of the Strip. It's like these people, ever since the Strip became a thing back at the UN partition at the founding of Israel in 1948, these people have wanted everyone in Israel dead. Like, that's the honest truth about it. And so that's why I don't really have that much sympathy for a lot of these folks, because these folks actively aid and abet Hamas. That's why that's why a lot of civilians always end up getting glassed in these airstrikes, because they'd rather sit on top of the building so that way when it gets hit, they get killed. And so that way the news can report that all these poor people got killed, and they can radicalize more people in the strip to join Hamas. That's how the entire strip runs. And it's pretty damn barbaric, I'm not going to lie, but that's exactly what's happening down there. It's not really a thing that you can be that sympathetic about when you go, oh, you know, like the Israelis drop some knocks on top of, like, some little knocks on the roof to let all of them know about 15 minutes in advance the building's going to get bombed. And then a lot of these people, they'll just sit there and they'll wait for the bomb to come so that way they get killed in the strike, so that way everyone can come up crying and go, oh, how could it be? You know, and then everyone can act like the Israelis are war criminals, when the Israelis went out of their way to let these people know there's a bomb coming, get out of the building. They don't get out of the building, and then they get bombed, and then everyone's surprised that they get bombed. It's a really stupid thing to me. And that's the end of the clip right there, but that is absolutely insane to me to see something like that. Cheering, like everyone sits there and goes, oh, you know, like, why in the world are the enforcers cheering on the Israeli response to Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and everything? Because these people are cheering on the death of anyone in the Western world. Like, that's the truth of it. Whenever they see anyone in the West die, they're going to cheer it on 100%. And so, with that, that's the end of the clip right there, but still very interesting to see. And moving on from that, we also got to see that apparently some people were messing around with some of the wreckage of an Iranian missile. And that's the end of the clip, but still really interesting to see. And also, I see a lot of people, I see some people saying some interesting things. I'm going to make sure to make this quite clear. We have no politics on this channel, but we are a pro-Western, pro-American organization. So if you sit there and say something like, oh, you say no politics, but you're going to turn against the genocidal maniacs in the Middle East. How could you? That's political. That's not political at all. We support Ukraine. We support Israel. We support any of America's allies around the entirety of the world. We support Taiwan. We support them all. If you don't like that, this may not be the channel for you. I mean, really. I mean, there's many channels out there who openly support genocide. You can go and watch those channels. We don't really support that. So when we see a whole bunch of Palestinians down there on the ground that were 100% behind Hamas going across the border way back on October 7th of last year and killing 2,000 Israeli civilians, and they were cheering that on when it happened, and then they were helping to aid and abet these terrorists for about the latter part of a whole year at this point, and making sure that anytime they do anything heinous, they're pretty much backed up and supported by the entire population of the Gaza Strip. And then we want to see nowadays that when Iran is going to start striking Tel Aviv, and there is a shooting going on in Tel Aviv, killing a decent amount of Israeli civilians, they're going to sit there and cheer all of it on. That's why we don't support these people, because while they cheer on the death of Israelis, they would cheer on the death of Americans. If another 9/11 happened, I would bet you money that the roars and cheers from the Gaza Strip, from Hezbollah inside of southern Lebanon, and from the Islamic Republic of Iran would be so loud that it'd be causing earthquakes. That's the truth of this whole thing. That's why I don't sit here and make a middle ground here where I'm like, well, I'm an American, but I mean, maybe the people who want to kill me have a point. No, they don't. They have no points. I'm not going to ever entertain that these people have points. That's why right now the United States president has ordered for all Iranian missiles to be shot down, is because we don't really find that they have a point. We're in the United States of America. I'm not an Iranian, and I'm not going to consider that their points are valid. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. While we get people out of here who are acting like that's a political statement, it's very interesting that that's a political statement, but supporting Ukraine to y'all is not a political statement to some of the people who were saying this. Very interesting, and y'all will be gone and forgotten quite quickly. But moving on from that, we are seeing that there is still more news coming out at the moment. It's not at the fast pace that we're seeing just a little while ago, but we are still seeing that loads of news is coming out. We are seeing
We
that
still not have any live press briefings happening either right now. Is this still like it's been a long time since we've been waiting for it.
we are actually hearing right now, Matthew, as we were saying that 30 seconds ago, the Israeli Defense Forces made a statement saying that they will attack with force tonight throughout the Middle East, meaning that an attack is inevitable within the next few hours. We are going to try and stay on air for this upcoming attack. And see when it happens, where it happens, and try to get as much up-to-date news as we can. But at this moment, we are still kind of on standby for a lot of things. There is a decent amount of news that has developed, but at the moment, we're kind of going through a little bit of a slow point. So while we're going through a bit of a slow point, we are going to be gathering up some questions. And so with that, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so to jump in some of our early questions here. Also, by the way, I did jump on late, so if I've missed your super chat, please shout at me and let me know. We do go in order of the amount of super chat donated, so if you see me jumping around and missing your super chat, then feel free to give me a shout, and I'll go back and try to find it. But anyways, our first one here goes to William Herr, who puts in a $100 donation, and thank you very much, William, for that support of the channel, by the way. He said, keep spreading the OSINT, and I may on occasion disagree with the mocking of victims. We never mock the victims, by the way.
No.
But the show is entertaining and informative, and take one from the chat.
And I thank you for the support. We don't mock victims, but I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and enjoying it. And thank you so much for enjoying the good news that we put out. And we will make sure to take a live chat as well. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this live chat question here, and also if you have a live chat question for us, put @EnforcerMatt in the chat with your question behind it, because currently I have 6 questions and I'm going to need some more. But the first one here goes to Sergeant Carnage. He said, how long do you suspect before Israel actually responds? Do you have an hour's estimation?
We actually do have a bit of an hour's estimation at this point, considering that they said they're going to be attacking tonight. We're actually assuming that it probably will be within the next 5 hours, or 6 hours at least, and we're going to be kind of waiting for that to happen when it happens. We, of course, don't really know when, but if we had to take a guess, it's going to be within the next 6 hours. So I don't know how we're going to do this, but we might actually stay alive for as long as we can until that starts, but we don't know when it's going to start, so we could be here for like, a day. So we'll kind of have to measure that out and see what we're going to be doing in that regard. But with that, I hope that does address that live chat well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one goes to Mr. Dial, who puts in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, Mr. Dial, as well for that support. He said, rock on, guys, and oh yeah, the M35A2 were being phased out, were still being used in 1997 AD Army, and the 2.5-ton best truck ever built.
And the M35 is a pretty cool truck, just to show what he's talking about right here. This is actually one of the ones that was in the Lebanese army. Over here, we consider that to be a vintage vehicle. Like nowadays, these things were in use for a very long time in the U.S. Army. I believe, let's see here. They were put into service in 1950. So these things were ancient by the time they were being phased out in the late 90s. They were 50 years old. One of the longest serving supply trucks in military history, I believe. But still an absolutely beast of a vehicle, and apparently still in limited service by some National Guard units even today, if you're in a state that doesn't fund their National Guard a lot. So that is very interesting to see, and I got to thank you for sharing that, Mr. Deal, and also thank you for being a part of the United States Army at a point and serving, because that is an incredibly good thing, a very admirable thing. And I got to say, it's not a bad truck. I would have to agree. Not a bad truck at all. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And what do we have, Matthew?
All right, so our next one here is going to go to 10K, who also puts in a very generous $50 donation, and thank you very much, 10K, for that support. They said, Enforcer Matt, can we get a poll to see if people like the streaming time more than the normal time? This streaming time is actually somewhat more convenient. Like, honestly, I like it better than the nighttime thing, but the only catch is most people do not get off of work and also have time to get on the stream until the nighttime. So it's more convenient for most people, but I will admit I do like the daytime streams, I will say. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say it would be worth running a poll. Thing is, though, we can't really change the time that the stream runs normally, and I'll explain why. The reason why the stream runs that way is because that is a Ukraine war stream, and that stream runs at the start of the next 24-hour cycle from hour 1 of the war 951 days ago. A lot of people don't know that. That stream actually started within the first hour of the war. When the first missile struck in Kyiv, about 20 minutes later, I was on air on a live stream covering that war. And so from that point, to be able to make sure that every 24-hour cycle is truly a 24-hour cycle, the stream has to run at the same time of the day, every day, for the rest of all time from hour one of the start of that war, which means that it starts every single day at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So every time y'all come on, like a lot of people don't know this, every single time y'all have come on, literally another 24 hours has passed since hour one of the start of the war. And that's why that's the daily summary. That is at that point right there. Another reason why it's kind of better to run it at that time is because that's what everyone's gotten used to. And changing streaming times can be really, really chaotic. I mean, it can actually be impossible to really do because it's something that people get used to. Like, people are used to now showing up at a specific time for 3 years now and getting their news and watching the stream. And if we change that to about 8 hours earlier in the day, everyone who's gotten used to watching our show is no longer going to have a show, and then everyone who isn't used to watching our show live now has a time slot to watch it. So it would be a little bit too much logistically to do, and I have a feeling that that would not be that good of an idea, not only because it would break up the 24-hour news reporting cycle that we've been doing for 951 days, but it would also really cause a lot of havoc for a lot of people who've gotten used to watching the stream at that time of day, which is literally at least 100,000 people per day live, and those people would no longer have a show. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so we do have some more breaking news here before we jump into our next question. Real quick, let me do another combing here of the news to make sure I've got all of it, and it looks like I do have most of it. So real quick, to shout this out, currently we're hearing from the Washington Post that U.S. Navy vessels were also involved in downing some of the Iranian ballistic missiles tonight. So not only were U.S. Air Force fighter jets in the air shooting stuff down, along with the Jordanians as well, the Israelis, and also the air defense on the ground inside of Israel, we also had the U.S. Navy involved in that also. So very big news on that front. And also, we have more information about the upcoming retaliation from Israel on Iran tonight. We're hearing from an IDF spokesman that Israel will strike powerfully with their Air Force, specifically with their fighter jets, in the Middle East tonight. So apparently it will not be limited to just Iran. It will be on other targets as well that may have aided and abetted Iran in today's attack. So also, let's see here, doing a little bit more reading on this article to make sure I'm not missing anything on it. Let's see here. And that appears to cover most of it, to be honest. The rest is kind of like small details, but that pretty much covers the most of it. So, Enforcer, would you like to weigh in?
I would have to say there's not really a lot for me to weigh in on at the moment because I'm still trying to track a million things right now all over the place, so I didn't really hear a lot to add to it. So go ahead, Matthew, please.
So that was all the breaking news for the moment. So with that, we will be jumping into our next question here while we're waiting on any more updates. And this one is going to go to Jody Mandelias, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Jody, as well for that support. They said thank you for the updates, and I don't have access other than Twitter and Facebook. And the Enforcers leading the way in LSA forever.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Jody Mandelius, and thank you for supporting the channel and helping it to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep this thing rolling. Right now, while we're running the stream, crazily enough, it has no sponsors, it has no ads, it has absolutely nothing. And let me make sure that I can show that to y'all, because a lot of people are new, so maybe y'all haven't seen this before, but we don't run ads on our streams. You can see right there, the monetization is off. We can turn it on, but we never turn it on. We've never turned it on in the entire history of the channel running. Sometimes we get copyright, which actually makes it impossible for us to actually monetize the things. But beyond that, for that reason, Jody Manelius and folks like you, you're the only people who help to make this channel possible and help us to keep on covering this news every single day. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here to give people updates. We wouldn't even be able to be here to receive your super chat thanking us for the update, because y'all's support is the only thing that actually makes this thing a possibility every single day. And I gotta thank y'all so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it was not for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing a reality each and every single day. And also, thank you so much for saying that we're leading the way, and long live the LSA, and the LSA will never die. Put an LSA in the chat if you agree. And with that, we are on to the next one. Also, really quickly, to tell everyone this, right now we are waiting for more news to come out, and we're also waiting for press briefings. So Of course, we don't really have a lot to report on at the moment. There was a lot that happened a little while ago. If you want to hear that, rewind in the stream and then just catch up to where we are right now. But we are kind of waiting for a little bit more news to show up at the moment. So right now we're answering questions from the audience before we move on into any more news, because the news hasn't showed up yet. Someone's saying that Netanyahu is actually live right now, but we're largely waiting for the American statements. But if we can get Netanyahu, we'll also get Netanyahu as well. And so with that, we are on.
I did see that about the Netanyahu speech. The only catch is we really don't have access to the Netanyahu speech when it's live. We will get the whole video when it has finished. So if someone could let us know where y'all are able to view that speech, because currently I'm not sure where to obtain that. The Israeli government website is in their language. It's not in our language, so we can't read it. So y'all let us know, because I would like to find it. I don't see it on Twitter either, by the way. And also the fact that the U.S. has not come out with their press briefings yet. Here's what's happening in the background. This is my assumption. The U.S. is trying to basically de-escalate the situation, because that is the default mode of the U.S. right now. They're probably on the phone, like the president, the advisors, and everyone, trying to communicate with their counterparts inside of Israel to make sure that the response is not as severe as what Iran did to Israel a moment ago. Because the ultimate objective for the U.S. is not to have a regional war break out in its totality. But I think at this point, it's unavoidable. And I doubt they're going to be even taking the call from the U.S. right now. But it's probably what they're waiting to hear is what the Israeli response is truly going to look like. And I doubt they're going to get an answer from Israel.
And let me see here if I can actually find the president of Israel. Actually, he's the prime minister, but whatever. Let me get him. Prime Minister of Israel. Let me go see if I can go to his website and try and grab it. Prime Minister's Office, Government of Israel. We're going to translate this thing to English. All right, so. Oh, all right. Dang, man. Wait a minute, do they not have the actual address on the website? Let me just pull the website over here really quickly. Let's see, services, ministries, information. Okay, let's go back to the main page. All right. Dang, man, I can't find it.
Yeah, I'm not sure where everybody's saying they're seeing this speech. Also, look at the customer service images they have on this website, like the woman down there with the call headset on and stuff. It's like, what is this? But it's like, I don't know where they're finding this thing right now. I think people might be seeing posts on Twitter saying that he went live, but we don't get to see it live for whatever reason. They're not publishing that.
Yeah, interestingly enough, we're not getting that here. So if he's speaking somewhere, we're not hearing it anywhere. And also, by the way, just to let you all know, the horn is on for the Department of State, the Office of the President, and also the Department of Defense, which is once again reset their countdown. We're 17 minutes away from some address by the Department of Defense, but we're still waiting for that one, and we don't know when it'll be coming out. It could be once again delayed and thrown back a little bit further. And so with that, we'll be waiting to see, and it's a very interesting thing so far. Let's see here. Also, I'm seeing an insane amount of people getting banned. Let's see here. Someone said being pro-Western is a political stance. How can that be a political stance? That is like the base default of being an American, is supporting your country. Like, every single side does that. How in the world is that a political... Like, I've got to actually sit here for a minute and address that idiocy. How in the world can you sit there and say that's a political stance? So you can be an American and hate America and want America destroyed, and that apparently is a political stance. And then loving America and supporting the country and supporting our interests abroad, which is really what everyone does, is apparently a political stance. All right, let me put this out there. I don't have mentally ill people here on the show, like in the chat. Like, if that's your stance, that being supporting American interests and Western interests is a political stance, you're a little too mentally ill for this show. I highly suggest you go back to the asylum that you came from, because that's not at all what I'm going to be doing here. I'm not going to be sitting here and supporting idiocy where I go, oh, I don't know, I can't support, the United States and our citizens. I can't back up my own interests and support them because some people might take that as being political. That is not political. That has never been political since the founding of this channel. It's a basic tenet of this channel. So if you're going to come up with a stupid point like that, you're gone. Look, I don't mean to be putting out like absolute ultimatums right now to folks, but I've been seeing some of the most brain dead takes I've ever seen coming from really weird people in the chat tonight, like being pro-Western is political. That's dumb. That's absolutely dumb. So people will be getting banned for statements like that, 100%. And so with that,
in the meantime, I got some more breaking news here. We just actually got a video in. A Jordanian man lights a cigarette from the burning debris of an Iranian ballistic missile. We have that on camera. Believe it or not, the guy lit his cigarette from a burning Iranian ballistic missile. That's a Chad move if I've ever seen one. Let's see this.
My man be chuffing. Check this out.
والله انك صادق. ابو حمزه ولع سكاره من الصاروخ. سكارته من الصاروخ. مشان يقولوا اذا قلت اني ولعت من صاروخ.
Alpha Chad right there, making the best of the situation.
Man, when life gives you Iranian ballistic missiles, you make lit cigarette. Like it's a simple formula. Always works every single time.
Also, Enforcer, we got some more breaking news as well. We just heard that Iran's Civil Aviation Organization says that all flights are canceled until 10 a.m. Wednesday local time. So, of course, it is Tuesday right now. So they've canceled all flights coming in, probably in anticipation for the massive Israeli response. Also, the Israelis are confirming they are not limiting their retaliation tonight to only Iran. They are going to let them ride, quote unquote, across the Middle East. And also, that video is still playing, by the way.
Not on my end.
Audio.
Wait, hang on. That may be. Oh crap! Here we go. Never mind. Cutting from that, we actually have the press briefing from the office of the president. We're going to be moving to that right now.
Also, by the way, it's going to be a second. They're not there yet. They're just turning on the audio. They're walking in a second.
All right.
But let's see here. But by the way, like I was saying, apparently Israel is going to, quote unquote, let them ride in the Middle East tonight. So they're going to go across the entire Middle East, striking every enemy target, not just in Iran, but also in other places as well. So apparently it's going to be a very, very significant response. And it has U.S. officials worried right now. That's the current consensus right now amongst the sources, is that the U.S. is worried that this might be such a large response that other powers might get involved in it. Which, you know, my thing is this. Israel has to respond to this. They cannot just let this go. If they were to let this go, Israel might as well stop being a country at this point, because they just got attacked in a massive, unprecedented attack by an enemy power, which is Iran, in basically a declaration of war. So they have to respond to it. But I'll be curious to see exactly how widespread this attack really is across which countries.
And we will have to see. I'm assuming that the Israelis will most likely be focalizing a lot of their attacks probably directly against Iran instead of anyone else, but we probably will see that there will be a couple of attacks against the IRGC, Hezbollah, maybe even Hamas in the Strip again, although they're kind of keeping those up right now, and maybe even against the Houthis as well, as we did see that the Israelis did strike Al-Hodeida just a little while ago. Also, by the way, just letting y'all know, we are waiting for the press briefing by the press secretary of the Office of the President in the White House at the moment, and it appears that is starting right now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to be really quick here. I have the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, to talk about the latest in the Middle East, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Karine, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm here to provide a brief report on the Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel that occurred earlier today. I can take just a few questions because this is an ongoing situation and I need to get back to my desk. Today, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles towards targets in Israel. The United States military coordinated closely with the Israeli Defense Forces to help defend Israel against this attack. U.S. naval destroyers joined Israeli air defense units in firing interceptors to shoot down inbound missiles. President Biden and Vice President Harris monitored the attack and the response from the White House Situation Room, joined in person and remotely by their national security team. We are still working with the IDF and the authorities in Israel to assess the impact of the attack. But at this time, and I stress at this time, we do not know of any deaths in Israel. We are tracking the reported death of a Palestinian civilian in Jericho in the West Bank. We do not know of any damage to aircraft or strategic military assets in Israel. In short, based on what we know at this point, this attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. This was first and foremost the result of the professionalism of the IDF, but in no small part because of the skilled work of the U.S. military and meticulous joint planning in anticipation of the attack. We are also aware of reports of a terrorist attack in Jaffa, that took the lives of a number of Israeli civilians and wounded several others today. Our condolences go out to the families of the victims and to the family of the Palestinian civilian in Jericho. Obviously, my update here is based on early reports, and we reserve the right to amend and adjust as necessary as we gather more information. The word fog of war was invented for a situation like this. This is a fluid situation. We will consult with the Israelis on next steps in terms of the response and how to deal with what Iran has just done, and we will continue to monitor for further threats and attacks from Iran and its proxies. We are particularly focused on protecting U.S. service members in the region. And with that, I'll take just a few questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Is the administration making any preparations to evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon or elsewhere in the region?
We have been very clear for some time now that U.S. citizens should avail themselves of commercial means to depart Lebanon, given everything that's going on. We have said that from this podium, from multiple podiums. We continue to say that, but we have not begun triggering a non-combatant emergency evacuation, a NEO, and do not have an intention to do so at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know. But we continue to reinforce the point. American citizens in Lebanon should follow the guidance from the State Department, which is to find civilian commercial means to depart, because in extremis, we may not be able to get them out safely. Yes.
Thanks, Jake. What is the U.S. view on whether Israel should retaliate, and what is your concern about this leading to a wider escalation of war in the region?
We've had some initial discussions with the Israelis in the aftermath of this at the military level and also at the White House to Prime Minister's office level. We'll continue those conversations in the hours ahead. I'm not going to prejudge or get ahead of anything. We want to have some deep consultations with the Israelis, and I'll have more to report to you after we get the opportunity for deeper discussions.
And escalation in the region?
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran, a significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go forward. Yeah.
Back in April, the president's message to Israel was to take the win when the U.S. and Israel were able to intercept the barrage of Iranian missiles. Is he recommending a similarly limited response this time?
I will not, from this podium, share the president's recommendations. He will have the opportunity to share them directly. We're going to have, as I said, ongoing consultations with the Israelis this afternoon, this evening. It is too early for me to tell you anything publicly in terms of our assessment or in terms of what our expectations are of the Israelis or the advice that we will give them.
So will he be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu today?
I don't have anything to announce from this podium, but I can tell you that he is tracking this minute by minute. We are very much deeply in touch with the Israelis, and insofar as we have calls to read out, we'll make sure to read them out with you. Just last question, then I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jake. In April, after Iran struck Israel, the U.S. issued a number of sanctions as a consequence. This morning, the president said there would be severe consequences if Iran carried out this attack. What are those consequences, and are they more severe than sanctions?
Totally legitimate question, and that answer will come based on the conversations and consultations we have with our Israeli counterparts. It's too soon for me to stand before you today and give you an answer. What I can tell you is this. We are proud of the actions that we've taken alongside Israel to protect and defend Israel. We have made clear that there will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Jake, for all that good info.
Thank you, Jake. Okay, on to the rest of the programming here. This morning, President Biden was briefed by his Homeland Security Advisor, Liz Sherwood-Randall, on the latest impacts of Hurricane Helene, and this afternoon he will receive an interagency briefing on the Hurricane Helene.
And we'll be moving away from the
response
statement from the press secretary of the Office of the White House, as that appears to be the only summary that we have at the moment about the instances involving the State of Israel and the attack from the Islamic Republic of Iran. It appears that the press briefing is now moving on into other discussions about the major damage caused by Hurricane Helene here in the United States just a few days ago. But it does seem as though we got almost no information from the fellow right there. It seems that there was really nothing that came of value out of that. that, we also were able to confirm that things are largely untrue that have been stated. And the reason why we were going to be refuting this government statement that came out from that press briefing is because we do have video and picture evidence to confirm the contrary. We have heard...
I will say, like, to not give the guy too hard of a time, he can't come out and say too much right now, because really you can't say too much, because the president might change his mind about something. He might decide, oh, I'm going to go a different route than I thought before. So you can't get too wild and loose with what he's saying. But also at the same time, if you have literally nothing to say, there's no reason to even come out and talk, because he literally said basically nothing, except there were no casualties. That's like the real piece of information we got out of this. But in 20 seconds, we might get to hear some real info from the Pentagon, from some military guys who actually are like on the ground and in the middle of this stuff. So we'll see here in 10 seconds.
And we will see here in 10 seconds. But nevertheless, here we go.
Really patriotic here.
Yeah, it's actually really patriotic.
We might have to borrow that flag waving animation at some point.
Yeah, we might actually have to. That's a pretty good one.
Also, unfortunately, just a heads up, it might actually be like a second to actually go live. So we're doing a scan here real quick to see if we have any more news here. We'll see. I don't think we have time to show the footage right now, but just to let y'all know, we do have more footage coming out showing the missile impacts in central Israel from a car. This is a car view, by the way. And also, I'm looking here to see if we have anything else while we're waiting on this briefing to start. And we're just getting more confirmation, more word from senior Israeli officials that the attack will be extensive, not just in Iran tonight, but across the Middle East. So that's currently all we know.
And thank you very much for sharing that at the moment. We are hearing that right now, from what we understand, the United States Navy and the United States Air Force were both involved in the interceptions of Iranian ballistic missiles that were flying on their way towards the state of Israel around an hour and a half ago. We are currently waiting for a statement from the United States Department of Defense, as we just a moment ago got a statement from the United States Office of the President from the White House press briefing room, where we were told very little. It appears that the information being put out by the United States is that the damage to Israeli forces and the Israeli citizenry have been nominal. There have been no losses except for a single Palestinian citizen near the area of Jaffa. There was no comment about the shooting near to the area of the Jaffa railway station near to Tel Aviv, and we were also given additional statements that apparently the United States is keeping a very close eye on things and trying to keep in touch with Israeli officials that are on the ground currently in the Middle East. We are still waiting at the moment to see if an Israeli response will be coming very soon. The Israeli officials have stated that they will be making a strike here within the next few hours against the Islamic Republic of Iran and the proxies that are currently within that region at the moment, supporting Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. We will be waiting still for the update from the United States Department of Defense at this moment, and I gotta say, Matthew, it's very weird talking right now with audio playing in the background, because it almost sounds like I'm getting ready for some kind of a speech. I was like, man, I don't know how the hell to take this, because usually there's no audio at all while I'm talking, but we're still waiting.
I was sitting here thinking the whole time the audio was playing, thinking this better not be copyrighted. Like, there's no way the government put copyrighted music in their like public speeches, like their intro to it. Hopefully it's not.
Oh, hopefully not. I would assume not, because usually the government doesn't, like the government would get in a lot of trouble if they didn't have a copyright license for this thing, or if it was copyright free. So I'm assuming it's probably like a U.S. Army band rendition, and so it should be copyright free.
Hopefully so, because that would be crazy if it wasn't. Be like, where's the tax dollars going? We're not getting copyright-free scores here?
And we are still waiting at the moment. We are probably going to see that the press briefing starts at the top of the hour here within the next minute.
Also, by the way, Enforcer, any information or any sites on the Department of State briefing, is that still being held off?
Right now, the mute is open on that one, so if anything does start, we will hear it.
Okay. The music just stopped here, so maybe they'll be coming live in just a moment. And also, by the way, just real quick to address this, I see a lot of people asking about this. They're asking, are we going to be running a stream tonight to cover the Ukraine news separately? So, Enforcer, what is the current status on that?
At the moment, we're not entirely sure. It really depends on how long this one runs. If this one runs an incredibly long time, we may forgo a 10 p.m. nightly stream tonight, because to be entirely honest, we really didn't get a day off yesterday, and we are also running a pretty ad hoc, very quick stream right now. The news segment is still going 2 hours in, so we may or may not. I'll have to make a more clear decision about that towards the end of this stream, to be entirely honest.
Good deal. I saw a lot of people asking about that, so I want to go ahead and get that aired out real quick while I do another scan for news, while we wait on the Pentagon. They are always on time. But anyways, let's see here. Let's see. We're seeing, by the way, more footage, which we will show probably after the press briefing's over. Russian state media is reporting this, so, you know, it is what it is. But we do have video evidence to actually back this report up, so it may not be actually false. It says they're reporting excessively long lines in Tehran, in Iran, for gas. So the people that are living in Iran right now are panicking and getting as much gas as they can to maybe try to flee or something like that, or maybe simply have gas to be able to survive if the country gets obliterated tonight. So that is the current status with that. So a lot of panic happening in Iran, understandably so, because they're about to have basically the wrath of Israel come down on all of their heads sometime tonight.
They're going to be having a very bright night, to say the least, in a few hours in Iran. But really quickly, to give you all a quick recap while we have the patriotic music playing in the background, I'll tell you all everything that's going on so far. Several days ago, an Israeli airstrike within the city of Beirut struck and killed the leader of Hezbollah, which his name is currently evading my mind right now. Matthew, who was that guy's name?
Hezbollah, Nasrallah?
Yeah, Nasrallah. They hit Nasrallah and killed him inside of his bunker. He suffocated to death inside of the bunker. The Israeli armed forces then, about 24 hours later, began an official ground invasion into southern Lebanon, and the Israelis issued an ultimatum to the Islamic Republic of Iran that any further retaliations or actions by that nation would result in the Israelis conducting airstrikes against Iranian nuclear research and development facilities, along with oil facilities as well. The Islamic Republic of Iran, nearly 12 hours after that statement was made, which was the start of this stream, launched over 200 ballistic missiles from the territory of western Iran towards the state of Israel. Over the 12 minutes that those missiles were flying over the region, United States armed forces of the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, and the U.S. Navy engaged and destroyed a large number of Iranian ballistic missiles that were flying towards Israel. Nevertheless, most missiles were not intercepted, and many started to make landfall on the state of Israel. Many started to hit the Nevatim Air Base in the city of Tel Aviv, while simultaneously in the small town of Jaffa, a group of gunmen, most likely supported by Iranian proxies, began a firefight, killing and wounding over 8 Israeli civilians and many others that have been unreported at this moment. Right now, we do not know of any major casualties that have been created by the Iranian airstrike. Currently, there is one that has been confirmed dead, and we also know that there may be significant damage to the Nevatim Air Base, although video and picture evidence has not emerged to show the true length of the damage. We've also been able to hear an official Israeli statement that a response will be made here within the next few hours over the course of this nightfall as the Israeli armed forces prepare for an official response against the Islamic Republic of Iran's attack. That is our current updates at the moment. We also were just briefed by the United States Office of the President from the White House, and we are currently waiting for the press briefing from the United States Office of the Department of Defense. So that is currently what we have at the moment.
You know, I would say switch back to the White House press briefing, but I don't think we're going to get any real information from that. The one guy that would have had the information was Sullivan, and Sullivan came up and really didn't feel like he was at liberty to say much of anything, except there were no casualties. So the only thing that Sullivan did say that we already knew was that the U.S. Navy was involved, and also the U.S. was involved as well. He made it almost sound like the U.S. took care of Israel's defense for them, which was a little bit interesting. We hear someone mumbling on the mic.
We're going to be muting that really quickly. That may actually be coming from the United States Department of State, and it is. We will be cutting over to the United States Department of State, and also, really quickly, we'll be moving the Pentagon over here.
Delaying today. Start with some opening comments before I turn to questions. Starting around 12:30 Eastern Time today, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles against a number of targets in Israel. The United States once again came to Israel's defense against these attacks, just as we participated in Israel's defense when Iran launched its April 13th attack. Our initial assessment is that Israel, with direct and every nation in the world, must join us in condemning it. Secretary Blinken joined President Biden, Vice President Harris, and other members of the President's national security team in monitoring this attack as it was unfolding, as well as our response. As the President has made clear, our support for Israel's security is ironclad. We will continue to stand with the people of Israel at this critical moment. With that, Matt.
Thanks. So I think this probably goes without saying, but just to make sure. So in terms of what happened in Israel, no damage to any U.S. facilities, no injuries, no nothing.
At this time, we are not aware of any damage to U.S. facilities. As you know, we issued an order earlier today for our personnel, State Department personnel in Israel to shelter at their homes. We have full accountability for all our personnel. We're not aware of any civilian casualties inside Israel, there, let alone an American citizen casualty. There is one report of a Palestinian who died in the West Bank, but no damage to any U.S. facility either.
And then both you and the National Security Advisor just a few minutes ago talked about the raising unacceptable escalation.
Bro, get on the mic.
Does the administration see anything that
The translator can't even hear him.
So certainly they have done things to expand the conflict. But if you look at the actions that they have taken, they were bringing terrorists to justice, terrorists who have launched attacks on Israeli civilians. If you look at what Iran did today, we have been warning for some time about the threat posed by Iran arming and funding terrorist groups across the Middle East. And the attack today just demonstrated the danger of those actions. What you saw was Iran launching a state-on-state attack to protect and defend the terrorist groups that it has built, nurtured, and that it controls. So there is a difference between the actions that we have seen Israel take to defend its civilians and what we see. What we've seen is Iran take.
They are equivalent. I just wanted to make sure that you didn't see.
No, we have certainly seen we've certainly seen Israel expand the nature of its attacks against Hezbollah, but it is a very different type of attack than what we saw today from a state actor against another state.
Okay, and then last one, and this has to do with Lebanon and the northern front. The situation there is, unstable and uncertain. I know that you guys have been asking Americans who might want information about assistance and possibly leaving to sign up on a form. Can you give us an update on the numbers of those and whether or not they're planning to do anything in the way of the U.S. government capabilities for further flights or ferries?
Sure. So you're right. As we often do in these situations, we have directed U.S. citizens who are in Lebanon to register with the State Department for information, and especially for information with how to depart Lebanon, and we're providing them whatever information we can. We have had, as of today, around 6,000 American citizens in Lebanon who have registered with us for further information. Should be clear, not all of those American citizens are seeking assistance with departing. People are just looking for information. They're looking for options. There are a number of American citizens who live in Lebanon who have lived there for years and do not want to depart the country. So in terms of the status on the ground, the airport is still open. Commercial flights are operating, although they are available at times at reduced capacity. We are working right now with airlines to provide additional flights with more seats for American citizens. It's something that we hope to turn on in the next few days, and we will be in touch with American citizens if and when we're able to expand that capability.
How do you ensure that the seats preserved?
I'm sorry, everyone. We're actually going to be cutting away from the United States Department of State because they're not giving us any additional information that we already did not know. So we're going to be cutting away from that. And we are going to be once again returning to the Pentagon as the Department of Defense is beginning its briefing.
Launching approximately 200 ballistic missiles targeting several locations in Israel. We condemn these reckless attacks by Iran, and we call on Iran to halt any further attacks, including from its proxy forces. During the attack, the U.S. military coordinated closely with the Israeli Defense Forces to help defend Israel. U.S. Navy destroyers deployed to the Middle East region supported the defense of Israel by firing approximately a dozen interceptors against the incoming Iranian missiles. Initial reports indicate that Israel was able to intercept the majority of incoming missiles and that there was minimal damage on the ground, but I'd refer you to Israel for confirmation and any questions on that as they're in a better position to discuss. Please note that we're still assessing the attack and the outcome, so numbers may change as we receive updates. Additionally, no U.S. personnel were injured or harmed during the Iranian missile attack. Secretary Austin, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General C.Q. Brown Jr., and U.S. Central Command Commander General Eric Kurilla have been in constant contact with President Biden and Vice President Harris throughout the day to consult on the situation and U.S. actions. In addition to his phone call earlier this morning with Israeli Minister of Defense Gallant prior to the Iranian attack, Secretary Austin spoke to the minister again just a short while ago to get an update. He reaffirmed the United States' ironclad commitment to the defense of Israel and underscored that the U.S. remains well-postured throughout the Middle East region to protect U.S. forces and defend Israel in the face of threats from Iran and Iran-backed terrorist organizations. We'll provide a readout of that call as soon as possible. To be crystal clear, as Secretary Austin has said, should Iran, its partners, or its proxies use this moment to target American personnel or interests in the region, the United States will take every necessary measure to defend our people. And separately, I do have an update to provide on DoD support to Hurricane Helene response efforts, but I'll provide that at the end. With that, I'm happy to take your questions. We'll start with AP. Tara.
Thanks, General Ryder. What Navy destroyers were involved in helping shoot down and intercept? And given this escalation, what's being communicated between Secretary Austin and Minister Gallant right now in terms of tampering things down and potentially avoiding a wider war?
So the two Navy destroyers involved were the USS Bulkley and the USS Cole. In terms of the conversations between Secretary Austin and Minister Gallant, I won't get into the private discussions other than to say we are consulting closely with them on next steps and the continued defense of Israel.
And then, are there any plans underway to conduct a NEO given the increased risk of a wider war?
Right now, there has been no order to evacuate. As you've heard us say before, we are a planning organization, so we, of course, plan for all contingencies. But as of right now, State Department has not called for an evacuation. Jennifer.
Should we assume that the SM-3s were used by the Cole and the Bulkley to shoot down or to intercept the missiles?
I'm not going to get into the specific type of ordnance, Jennifer, other than to say, again, they fired a dozen interceptors.
And Iran said that they gave a heads up to the U.S. and to Russia. How much warning were you given by Iran?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any pre-warning by Iran about their potential attack. As you know, this is something we've been following very closely for a while, based on the threats of retaliation by Iran. And so we've been closely consulting with Israel for a while now to be prepared in the eventuality. And as today demonstrated, we were prepared and we were able to successfully work alongside Israel to defend them from this attack. Let me go to Carla.
Thanks, Pat. You said that the destroyers shot down Iranian missiles. Where do they come from? Were they all from inside Iran, or was some also from Yemen being shot by the Houthis?
Carla, to my knowledge, and again, we're still assessing this, these were all launched from Iran, ballistic missiles. And what I said was that they fired the interceptors towards those missiles. So.
And then were any other U.S. assets involved in this defense?
Of course, we have a lot of capability in the region, a lot of things that are there to be prepared for a wide variety of threats. But in terms of the launching of these interceptors, it was those two destroyers.
So just being clear, no ground-based interceptors were used in this.
Correct.
Were the were you aware of any duds that didn't fire off, that maybe Iran wanted to fire more than the roughly 200?
As I mentioned, we're still assessing the outcome of the attack, and so we'll have much more information later. But these are all, our initial reports.
And then on the second call with the Secretary and Minister Gallant, Did he urge Israel not to respond or to moderate any response to Iran, or did Gallant share any of Israeli intentions for their potential response here?
Well, again, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I'm just not going to be able to get into the details of their call, other than to say, again, we're consulting closely about next steps and the continued defense of Israel.
What does Secretary Austin think about the potential for an Israeli response here? Would he urge them, without saying what he said in the call necessarily, but what are his feelings about the potential? Would he urge them restraint or?
Well, look, if you take a step back here, we fully support Israel's right to defend itself. You just saw a very significant ballistic missile attack by Iran against Israel. And so, we'll continue to work alongside them to support their defense. We, of course, do not want to see a wider regional conflict. You've heard us say that many times, and we'll continue to work towards that end. But we also fully understand the fact that this was a significant attack by Iran, and so we're going to continue to consult closely, and we're going to continue to support their defense. Let me go to Laura.
Thank you. Just a couple of clarifications. You say that the U.S. destroyers had intercepted or shot down the missiles, or just that they fired?
I said that they fired approximately a dozen interceptors against the incoming Iranian missiles.
Okay. And were there any U.S. aircraft that shot interceptors at Iranian missiles?
What I've read out is what participated in the defense of Israel. Okay.
And then, just one more. Can you say if there were any drones or cruise missiles that were involved in the Iranian
Again,
attack?
still assessing it right now. It appears it was ballistic missiles, no drones, but again, we'll continue to assess. Let me go to Joseph, and then we'll come here.
Thank you. Just wanted to turn to the Israeli invasion in Lebanon. For the past couple of months, the department and the secretary have called for de-escalation. You guys have voiced your opposition to any ground incursion, invasions, limited operations. After we found out that the Israeli strike last week killed the Hezbollah chief, Hassan Nasrallah, it seems like the tone changed. From the statements last night, the department and the secretary said they supported what Israel is doing. So what changed for a change in that tone and that stance from the department?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Joseph, is we fully support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah. As we understand it, they will be conducting limited operations to destroy Hezbollah infrastructure that's arrayed along the border there that could be used to threaten Israeli citizens. And so we're continuing to consult with the Israelis to better understand how they intend to go forward. Obviously, I'd refer you to them to talk or ask questions about details regarding those operations. But we fully understand as part of their overall efforts to return people home that they do need to address those threats that are along the border there. And so all that to say, we will continue to consult with the Israelis and other partners in the region long term about how we can ultimately de-escalate those tensions and get to a ceasefire.
Have they asked for any help from you guys doing whatever it is that they want to do?
No. Yes, sir.
Were the United States surprised by the scale of the Iranian attack on Israel?
Well, look, like I said before, we've been monitoring this for a while. Iran had been very public about its threats to retaliate, and so it's something that we've been monitoring. Certainly, this was a significant attack, probably about twice the size in terms of scope of what we saw earlier. But again, we're still assessing the outcomes of this. And as I highlighted at the top, we certainly condemn this reckless attack, this direct attack against Israel, and we'll continue to support Israel's defense.
Several Israeli media spoke about a response tonight, Israeli response tonight to this attack, including some, not just Iran, some other Middle Eastern countries. Will the United States be assisting the Israelis in their response?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about hypotheticals. I'd refer you to the Israelis to talk about,
I'm asking about, will the Americans help them with their
Well, what you're asking me is if they're going to do something, and what I'm saying is I'm not going to speculate about what or if they may do. As I highlighted to several of your colleagues, we're consulting closely with the Israelis in terms of next steps, with the emphasis being the defense of Israel. So let me go to this side of the room. Oren.
Essentially a follow-up to that question, is the U.S. willing to strike Iran in response to this? Are you putting that on or off the table?
Well, look, Garnett, again, I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I think I was very clear at the top that should U.S. forces be targeted by Iran or its proxies, we'll take necessary steps to defend our people. And I think we've also been very clear that we're going to support the defense of Israel. And so I'm not going to get into theoretical or speculative operations at this stage, other than to say, we mean what we say and we say what we mean.
And then a follow-up question. Iran claims to have used a new Fatah missile, which is supposed to be a hypersonic ballistic missile. Can you assess whether they did use new and advanced weaponry in this attack and whether they learned from the April attack?
Again, we're still assessing the attack and the outcomes, and so we may have more to provide later, but I don't have anything on that right now. Dan.
Thanks for your time. 2 questions, please. On Secretary Austin's statement last night, he referred to being supportive of operations along the border. Is he open to Israel using operations on both sides of the border? Along the border was a little vague there.
Well, I think I'd go back to how I responded to Joseph, right? We understand and support Israel's right to defend itself against Hezbollah, as we highlighted in the readout. We understand that part of that is dismantling some of the attack infrastructure that Hezbollah has built along the border. Certainly, again, we don't want to see this, broaden into a wider regional conflict, but we understand, again, that what Israel is doing are limited operations to destroy that attack infrastructure, and then enable citizens on both sides of the border to return home. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we do think that a diplomatic resolution is the only way to achieve lasting stability and security across the Israel-Lebanon border. So, we're going to continue to work to that end, but we also, again, understand Israel's need to defend itself.
And then a follow-up.
Now we're going to be moving on from Lieutenant General Ryder. Well, actually not Lieutenant General. That would be Major General Ryder right there. And out of the Department of Defense press briefing, as it doesn't appear that we're going to be getting any new or enlightening information at the moment beyond what we've actually told you all already here on the channel from any department of the U.S. government. And so we're actually going to be moving back onto Twitter really quickly, because we are seeing a whole load of new information that is coming out about the attacks that occurred. And there was actually a question that was asked by oh, hang on, hold up, we're getting a lot of additional footage here that's starting to come out right after the attack. So really quickly, let me make sure that I can gather up as much of this as I can, and then we'll be showing you all of this as we have seen it come out just a moment ago. And so we're going to be moving on back onto our Twitter, and we're going to be showing you all everything that has been happening so far. We have been able to see additional impacts being made inside of Israel by the Iranian missiles. This was a lot closer to the impact sites, and once again giving us a clearer idea of the damage that was being caused. We hear the explosions of the Iranian missiles in the distance and smoke rising from the impact sites, showing that multiple Iranian missiles were able to breach the air defense and hit multiple targets within this area of Israel. That's the end of the clip right there, but moving on from this clip and on to our next one, we were able to hear a question posed to Major General Ryder in the Department of Defense briefing as to whether Fatah missiles were used at the moment of launch, and we were able to see pictures confirming that not only were the large volume of ballistic missiles launched from the area around Tabriz inside of western Iran, we were also able to see picture evidence here that a Fatah missile was in fact used in the attack. There is not much known about this missile, but hypothetically, it is some sort of a hypersonic missile that is being used by the Islamic Republic of Iran. We'll actually be showing you all the Wikipedia page here that we have on it, because it's really the only bit of additional information that we have. But the Fatah 1 that was just pictured there a second ago is an Iranian hypersonic medium-range ballistic missile developed by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and unveiled in 2023. It is Iran's first hypersonic ballistic missile. And we can actually see right here, its unveiling. This appears to be the warhead, and that also appears to be some sort of a digital creation of the final product of the Fatah 1 missile. And we can also see it right there. Now, when we move to this picture right over here, you can see that this missile has the exact same shape and profile as the Fatah missile. And so it does appear that this is the Fatah missile by all measures. We can also see the warhead right there on the Fatah missile, along with possibly a separate motor that is installed into the warhead to give it a second stage, and we can also see it at the unveiling ceremony in Iran. So it does appear that this missile was used, and that for the first time ever, a hypersonic missile has been used by the Islamic Republic of Iran against the state of Israel. We were also able to get an additional picture of it right there. These pictures apparently being published by the Iranians themselves, once again showing off what they would believe to be technological prowess. We have also been able to see that gas station queues are beginning to build up in number inside of Tehran and throughout the areas of Iran, as we are starting to see that the Iranian citizenry are getting ready for the Israeli strike that most likely will be coming here within a very short amount of time. Now you see the massive queue to the gas station. An incredibly long line. This is giving us an idea that the Iranian citizenry have a fairly good understanding that the response is going to be quite large, even on their own, more so personable level. And there's the gas station right there. But moving on from that clip, we also got to see just a while ago some footage that came out from the Israeli Defense Forces that are in southern Lebanon in some of their operations there while this attack was ongoing. We can actually see here that the geolocated it exactly on the clip. It's not that far across the border, but it does show that the IDF is inside of Lebanon. Inside of that building right there. And we see the IDF unveiling a large weapons cache of munitions of all sorts, and weapons as well, as they finally start to enter the tunnels below these buildings that Hezbollah has made to be able to help them to continue to conduct clandestine operations against the state of Israel within the northern region.
That box the ammo was in looked like it was like a Gucci box or something like that, the way it had that printing on the outside of it.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, that's a really weird box. Also, by the way, on this map, they actually show you all the bank of the Litani River. We believe that the Israelis are going to advance up to the southern bank of the Litani River from east to west. That's where we're expecting at the moment. So they are going to be going a little bit north of Tyre. But still, very interesting to see the tunnel networks in the area. And we were also able to see, interestingly enough, a very close call for this car driver here and an Iranian missile that almost hit them. We heard debris hitting their car.
Yo, that was a big explosion.
And that was pretty big, yo. And moving on from that and into our next clip, let's see here. Israeli Air Force spotted in Iraqi airspace. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. That was 19 minutes ago. Have been spotted in Iraqi airspace. Missile launches targeting locations in Iran are expected. So that was 19 minutes ago. We haven't heard of any of these strikes yet. But according to the information that we have at the moment, it seems as though, at least 19 minutes ago, there was an Israeli, some sort of an Israeli aircraft, we're not exactly sure to the variant, that was spotted somewhere in the area of western Iraq, or most likely heading towards eastern Iraq, and maybe starting to launch missiles into Iran. So we may actually be seeing retaliatory strikes coming around here very soon, way sooner than we actually even anticipated. But we're still waiting for more information to come out. We're still waiting for a load of other stuff to happen. So we are going to be waiting. We're going to be sitting here patiently. And go ahead, Matthew. What do you have?
So I was about to say, do we know any more about the Fatah missile? Apparently, it's called a Fatah 2 missile. Do we know like the exact specifications and what that's capable of? Because I know they're claiming it's a hypersonic missile, I believe is what they're claiming. But of course, you know, they can claim whatever they want. It may or may not be an actual hypersonic missile. So do we have any stats on it or anything to figure out if that's actually a legitimate thing?
We don't have any stats, really, but we do have a picture of the Fatah 2, right here. That's what it looks like. So we don't really know a lot about this thing, to be entirely honest. There's not really much on it, as you can see right here. You know, it's not much at all. We probably don't have any technical information. We can go to this organization right here talking about the missile. Maybe they have a little bit. So let's see here. It was supposed to have a range of 1,400 kilometers and obtain speeds up to Mach 13 to Mach 15. And so it seems as though it's a hypersonic missile, you know, like any that you would see, like the Russians with the Kinzhal, or let's see. I'm having a hard time with names right now because I'm trying to balance so much in my head. It was the Kinzhal, and then there was another one, the Iskander. Well, it's not the Iskander. It's the whatever. The Kinzhal and another missile that the Russians have.
By the way, I found a graphic visual. I'm not sure. I think this might be from maybe a Iranian source. Check the Twitter page. It shows some basic information about the missile.
Got you. And so we're going to be moving over to Twitter really quickly and trying to get that little bit of additional information that we have about the Fatah missile. So here we go. Here's the Fatah 2, as it's seen when it was being unveiled. And apparently it has a range of 1,400 kilometers. It has a speed of Mach 5 on its last stage, which is this stage right up here. It was unveiled in 2023. It has INS and GPS guidance. It has a 200 kilogram explosive warhead, which is fairly big. It's about a 500-pound warhead. Well, actually, the explosive weighs 200 kilograms. The warhead's 500 pounds. So about 750 pounds for the entire warhead. About 400 pounds, 450 pounds of that is actual explosive mass. But that's all we have at the moment about this missile. There's not really a lot known about it. And we're still going to be trying to find out more as we go. But still not a lot on it. So that's all we know about the Fatah 2. It seems that it may have been used. We're not entirely sure yet. We have seen pictures, though, of Fatah 2s being launched. We don't know if any of them made it to Israel, and we don't know what they hit, if they hit anything, but they were used in the attack so far. We are going to be waiting for more news to come out, because we're still kind of patiently waiting. But while we're waiting, we're going to start answering some questions in the meantime to pass a little bit of time, and then once more news comes out, we're, of course, going to circle right back into it and start covering it. And so, Matthew, what do we have?
All right, so jumping into our question segment here, our super chats first. This one goes to Eric Hutchins, who puts in a $50 donation, and thank you very much, Eric, for that support. He said, I appreciate the excellent coverage.
And I thank you so much for the massive support, Eric Hutchins, in enjoying the coverage. We are trying our best to get out a good bit of information and details, and I'm glad that a lot of people are enjoying it. I'll be honest, I always sit there, and I always am a little interested. Sorry if I'm yawning, folks, because like I literally woke up and got right onto this thing. Like, to be entirely honest with y'all, no coffee, no nothing. So so to be honest with y'all, I always sit there when bots say, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm always like, they're so stupid. And then we watch like a Department of Defense briefing, and then you realize how little is ever said. And it's like, we say a lot more than the Department of Defense or the government says about most things and how it's working and how it's going on. So I gotta say, a huge thanks to you so much for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this thing running, because you're making it possible for us to be on air and give more info to y'all than actual journalists that do this as a job can get from the Department of Defense, the Department of State, or the Office of the President. So thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, Eric, and thank you once again for supporting this channel and helping us to keep this kind of coverage going. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next one here is going to go to Mr. Shroom Kid, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Mr. Shroom Kid, for that support. And he said, I'm 35 minutes behind the stream, but here's for a couple of packs of Red Bull for tonight, or DoorDash, or whatever you guys want. And also, I made a comment about this on social media somewhere, and people really just don't seem to care about what's happening.
And I got to thank you for the support, Mr. Shroom Kid, and I thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here these days. And thank you so much for supporting and funding some packs of Red Bull or DoorDash tonight, because honestly, I'm actually kind of a little hungry at this point. I'm a little hungry and I want to eat. But beyond that, I thank you so much once again, and I do have to say, Nah, it kind of depends. Some people care, some people don't. And you end up getting like you get a different crowd, to be entirely honest, when you cover anything in the Middle East. Like there's a lot of y'all who are channel regulars here, but there has been a little bit of a newer crowd coming in tonight, and there are some pluses and minuses to that. But one of the minuses is that, and I guess that I kind of forget this because the Ukraine war is a lot like this. It's just that a lot of those people have been weeded out because a lot of them have been banned, but there's always people who come in with the most asinine takes that you've ever seen. And it's always bizarre to me. Like when you have a live chat like we have, and there's tens of thousands of people here, what kind of dumb takes you can really see coming out of people. Like, you know, Iran can curb stomp America. Like that's probably one of the dumbest ones I've seen tonight. Also another dumb one that I've seen is that, you know, we don't know what we're talking about when we actually have all the video and picture evidence to back it up. Like, that's another one that bots come in with, and it's like, we have more to say and we know more than what the Department of Defense is even telling people at the moment. You know, it's like that lets me know we know what we're talking about, you know. And you don't really get a good you don't really get a good comparison to that until we play their briefing live, and you'll see how little they'll say. Like they'll be like, so did any missiles hit Israel? And they'll be like, from what we know, we've been speaking with sources on the ground, and the sources have been very intelligible and knowledgeable and have been keeping us apprised of the situation. And from what we understand, according to the Israelis, there hasn't really been any damage, and the damage is non-existent. Things are good, and like that's it. And like you don't really get a lot of updates about where they've hit, or how many have hit, or how many missiles there were present, and how the air interceptors operated, or anything like that. You don't get any of that info. We give it, and so I know that we're doing pretty good. The bots can go and kiss it, but beyond that, I got to thank you once again for the support, Mr. Shroom Kid, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because folks like you help us to make this thing possible, help us to stay on air, and help us to keep covering this news. And so a big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, real quick, I'm seeing people reiterating this on Twitter. They're saying that Netanyahu did warn Iran last week that if Iran struck them, then they will strike you, and much harder, and there's no place in Iran that the long arm of Israel cannot reach. Also, keep in mind that the U.S. avowed significant consequences for Iran if they did attack Israel. One thing I do want to note is we didn't notice in that little press briefing, and all the press briefings, that none of the speakers would actually commit to giving the significant response that they committed to previously. They sort of like dodged the question completely, so I'm not sure if the U.S. is going to back off of that and maybe not give the significant consequences that they vowed to give to Iran. They may decide to let that go, but I'm not really sure. But they should follow through what they're saying. But we'll have to wait and see. Let us know in the live chat what y'all think about that. Do you think the U.S. is going to follow through with it or back off of it? I'll be curious to see what y'all think. But anyways, moving on to our next super chat question here. We have one from Herbert Leita, who puts in a $30 donation. And thank you very much, Herbert, for that support. He said, I appreciate you guys keeping us informed.
And thank you so much for the support, and thank you for enjoying us, keeping you informed, Herbert. It's more than a pleasure. We absolutely love and enjoy getting to tell all of y'all the news. It's really something that we get to do this 2 days in a row, where we have breaking news segments where we have to go live immediately because major things are happening. That's actually pretty cool that we've been able to do this 2 days in a row. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because you help us to be able to make these special breaking news segments possible with your support. Once again, to reiterate this, we don't make a single cent off of these live streams. Proof in the pudding right there. Monetization is off for all of them. And if you want to make sure that that's really true, it's off for literally all of them. And we can just keep on going back in time. And for years now, the monetization has been off. We don't make a single dime running these streams. The only way that we make a living off of this, so that way we can keep paying the bills and keep this thing running, is thanks to folks like you. And if it wasn't for folks like you who enjoyed this channel and supported it, we wouldn't be able to be here on air right now. And so I got to thank you so much once again, Herbert, for enjoying the news and enjoying us keeping y'all informed, because your support is helping us to make sure that all of y'all stay informed and make this entire news channel a reality. And so a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to John Mills, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, John, for that first-time support on the channel. We appreciate that very much. And he put in that 50, of course, and said, no question, I simply want to support the channel.
And I got to thank you so much once again for support, John Mills, and thank you for just wanting to support the channel. It means a lot to us, and we can't thank folks like you enough because you make the entire channel possible for everyone. Right now, just to let you know, your $50 super chat has made this news possible for 120,000 people so far, and there are still 11,200 people on air right now who are on this stream thanks to folks like you supporting this channel. You're helping us keep this thing ad-free and sponsor-free, and I thank you massively for that. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
In our next question from the Super Chats is going to go to Kevin Thatcher, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to Kevin as well. He said, "You guys rock and keep the chat independent."
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Kevin, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running. And we really just want to keep politics out of the chat entirely. Some people don't know that. I guess some people are new to the channel and are coming here thinking that this is like the... Let me think of some shows so that way I can make sure to balance it out. It's the Young Turks on the left, or it's Louder with Crowder on the right. We're not into that garbage here. Like, I'm really not. Like, if people want to go to some sort of a political cesspool and just be angry about stuff all day and just say stupid things that really make no sense, they can go to one of those channels on one side or the other. We just don't do that here. We've never done it. I'm very happy that we haven't done it because we haven't gotten lobbed into some camp with a whole bunch of stupid people. And a lot of people, I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of people out there who really worship the ground that political commentators walk on, or people who get in the political field. And I got to tell you, after us having to have limited experience and limited dealings with these people just running this channel, all of them are very, very stupid people. I haven't run into one where I thought their intelligence was really something admirable. They're very low IQ, to be entirely honest. I mean, you know, they wouldn't be able to pour piss out of a boot if the instructions were on the heel kind of a people. And so I'm very happy that we've been able to keep this thing no politics and just go right down the middle for 3 years, because otherwise we would have to deal with those people. And I just could not handle that, like, at all. And you know, Matthew, someone's going to come out of the woodwork because I said that and say, I'm a political commentator and political commentators are wonderful, acting like they're going to make me change my mind. No, like, I'm not going to change my mind. Political commentators are horrendous, like, and I'm glad we're not one of them. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. Huge thanks to you once again for the support, and put an LSA in the chat if you believe and stand up to the LSA core tenets. Put an LSA in the chat. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so we finally have a substantive statement that came out of the Pentagon press briefing that apparently happened after we left the whole thing. He eventually said something of substance. The Major General said that tonight's Iranian ballistic missile attack against Israel was double the size of April's attack, and the big part is he stated it was clear that the U.S. views this as Iran's intent to cause destruction in Israel. It was not just for show. They were actually trying to destroy sites inside of Israel, and he didn't mention this specifically, but there are reports that they were targeting a nuclear reactor inside of Israel. So that's quite a huge thing. If that was hit, that would have been quite bad. Obviously, that goes without saying. So that is a substantive thing that came out of the press briefing here. And I was looking here to see if there's other breaking news, and that appears to be it for the moment. So with that, we'll be moving on to our next question, which goes to Neiman Bauer, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Neiman, for that support as well. He said, "Hello, enforcers, and thanks for keeping up the good work. And I just read that France warns Israel, and if they don't stop, then France wants to support Lebanon with weapons, ? And have you any information about that? And long live the West."
And long live the LSA, and long live the Western world and American interests. And to be honest with you, I haven't heard anything about that at all. I haven't heard any statements from the president's office in France, from Macron, about that. I would assume that that probably is not the case, because supporting Lebanon with weapons would actually be contrary to the last French stance that was made, because the last French stance that was made was that they were begging the Lebanese government to try and wipe out Hezbollah on their own so that way Israel wouldn't invade them. So I haven't heard that at the moment. I would have to say that that's untrue, at least for now, but I don't have any information to actually say whether that's true or not. So I'm leaning towards untrue, but I'll have to see if the French government did say that. I'm doubting it, though, to be entirely honest. But there would be a little bit of a historical allegiance that France would have to Lebanon. Lebanon and Syria were once French mandates after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire from 1918 up till, I believe it was 1946 or 1947. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And thank you once again for supporting Neiman Bauer, being one of our Austrian viewers and asking interesting questions, supporting this channel to help us to keep this thing running. And I see a lot of people saying fake news on that one. So I think that that one may be untrue and maybe just meant to kind of like throw out a whole bunch of questions and anger in the West that is being wrongfully directed at France because they're not doing such a thing as that. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one here is a $50 support from Les Karash. And thank you very much, Les, for that support. And they said, as anyone considered the strike was issued by Putin, considering the last time that Iran hit Israel, U.S. weapons were diverted from Ukraine. And also, Putin's stock has been hit many times, and he finds himself facing shortages on the battlefield. And what do you think?
And I would have to say, thank you for the support, and I would generally say I don't believe that this was authorized by Putin. This proxy war has been going on before Putin was even a serious contender in Russian politics. This proxy war has been going on since about the early 80s, ever really since the foundation of the Islamic Republic in Iran, which was around 1979. And so going off of that, I would highly doubt that he was the one who authorized the strike, because from what we had been told, the Iranians notified Russia and the United States just a little while before the attack was to occur that they were going to launch the attack. So from what we understand, the Russians probably didn't approve it. The Iranians approved it themselves, and then they just told the Russians that they were going to do it a lot like they told us. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Les Carras. And thank you for enjoying this channel massively enough that you would want to support it and help it to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question is going to go to Mace, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Mace, for that support. And also, it's good to see you once again. And he says, Iran has won the coin toss and is elected to receive.
And they have elected to receive, and I wonder what they will receive. They're probably going to receive a great deal of stuff, a great deal of fun, wonderful stuff, long-lasting stuff, and it probably will hurt them greatly, and it should. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, Mace, because you're an old guard, and you've been helping out this channel for an incredibly long time. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Laura Garces, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Laura, for that support as well. We appreciate that. And said that I really appreciate the two of you, and keep up the good work.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Laura, and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much for enjoying the work that we've been doing and supporting and helping to keep on running, because this has been one hell of a news segment. It's going on for 2.5 hours. Usually our news segments are around 1 hour and 40 minutes long, so this one's incredibly long. It's 1 hour longer than normal. And I got to thank everyone so much for enjoying it, because a lot of effort and a lot of stress has been undergone over here to get this thing off the ground and rolling today. Because just to let y'all know, this is what was happening when this went down. I had just woken up and gotten downstairs. I was petting Mr. Wergy, and I was on the floor with him. I was like, oh, he's a little boy. He's a little precious boy. I love the Mr. Wergy. And Matthew and my mom had gone off to go shopping at the grocery store. And so then I sat there and I got up and I said, oh, I'm so worried. I can't pet you anymore. I got to get to work. I got to see what's going on over here. And then I got on my computer, sat down, and as soon as I did, the first update had come out literally a minute ago that missiles were fired from Iran and they were heading towards Israel. And I was like, oh, crap. I called Matthew. I was like, oh, Matthew, you need to get home right now. They're bombing them, and it's big. It's really big. You got to get home. He was like, okay, I'm on my way. So he wasn't even here. Like many of y'all were here at the start would realize, he wasn't even here when the stream went live. He was still getting home. Like he was still racing in his car back home so that we could get on the stream and run this thing. So there was a lot of stress that was starting off this thing. There was a lot of stress in the middle of the show because we're always trying to make sure to keep the presentation really polished, at least the best we can, beyond my rants against the bots and, you know, like instant ban policies that we were having to lay out. We try and keep all of our monologue really smooth and coherent sounding. So there was a lot of stress involved in that because there was no prep at all. Everything just went live instantly. So yeah, it was a pretty crazy day today, and I got to thank you so much for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running, because you're helping this crazy day to have been possible in the first place, because we get to pay our bills and keep doing this as a job. And so a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And also Shaddy said, so are you guys like cousins? No, we're brothers, actually. We're legitimately blood brothers. Matthew is my older brother. I'm the younger brother. I founded the channel and started it, and then Matthew joined in months after it started, but about a month into the war in Ukraine, Matthew joined on as the co-host, and him and me have been running this thing single-handedly ever since, which is a good deal of work, but we do an incredibly good job at it. Matthew does a great deal. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, just in case you're all wondering. And also, I saw someone earlier go, "When in the world is someone talking to themselves like they're a different person?" There's literally two people here. Like, we sound very different, like, or similar, maybe. But Matthew and me are totally different people. Like, the person who's talking nonstop on the channel, 9 out of 10 times is me, and I'm the enforcer. Or, my actual name is Andrew. I'm the one who runs this channel on air and makes sure that things keep running smooth and that we have news and everything most of the time. And I'm the one who usually has the giant monologue and analysis and stuff. Enforcer Matt, or his real name, which is Matthew. I'm Andrew. Matthew is Matthew. Matthew is the one who doesn't really talk as much. He's the one who does a lot of our behind-the-scenes stuff while the show's running. He does a lot of the banhammer in the chat. He also does a lot of super chat compiling, like Vadim Rosenberg's, who's being put in the spreadsheet right now. Matthew does all that kind of stuff behind the scenes. He has like an entirely different job that he does on air. And then every once in a while, he also weighs in with his opinion as well. So that's kind of how this channel runs. Like, if y'all are ever wondering what in the world's going on, why in the world does this sound like the same person? It's two people. We're brothers. I'm Andrew. Matthew's Matthew. I do all the talking. Matthew does the walking. Together, we make a great team. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it was not for folks like you, Laura, we wouldn't be able to be here together and keeping up this work. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next one here, we have a $20 super chat from Benny Schmilofishi. I'm butchering your last name, Benny. Sadly, I'm butchering the hell out of it. I have no idea how to say it. Very interesting. How is it?
Schmilovici, I believe it is.
Interesting. So, if Benny, if he got it right, let us know. But thank you very much for that support as well. He said, "Hello from Israel and love your stream." Also, be safe, Benny, over there. It's quite a bad situation going down. I would hate to be in the middle of it, so stay safe.
And I thank you so much for the support, Benny. And I hope that I did get that last name correct, Schmilovici. Hopefully that's right. May not be right. It actually kind of sounds a little Italian, I'm not going to lie. So that's why I kind of went with a chi sound for the last part of it. But I still thank you for the support and helping this channel keep it running. I hope you stay safe over there. Big things are going down in Israel. As you know, we've been talking about that all night, and you've been living it. So I'm hoping that you're safe. I wish you the best of luck over there. And also thank you so much for being here and hopefully getting some pretty good updates on the news and what's going on over there, because a lot's going down. I mean, it's an insanely high amount. A conventional war has begun, and we'll be waiting to see how it goes. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that fairly well. And thank you for being one of our Israeli viewers here in the Lee Spring Army. And so thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one is going to go to Leora Avagile, who puts in a $20 donation once again, and always supporting the channel. And we appreciate it, Laura. We appreciate it very much. And they said, "Enforcers, keep telling it how it is. And thanks for the continuous update today on the war. And keep kicking ass and with the reporting. And go LSA."
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Leora Avagile, and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who have made this thing possible for one hell of a time. And I got to thank you so much once again for enjoying us, telling it how it is, and just keeping everyone updated on everything going on around the world. It's a lot going on these days. It's certainly an interesting time in history, one that many will look back on and remember a lot like the Second World War or the Cold War or something along those lines. It's a pretty interesting time. And I got to thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping it to be possible, because you're helping us to keep kicking ass with the reporting. And also you're helping us to just keep putting out our message. Like, the channel didn't really have a message when it started. We were just reporting. But as the channel evolved, it did finally start to get a message to follow behind it. And that message is supporting American and pro-Western interests around the world. Anything that does that is a key tenet of this channel. And I got to thank you so much once again for helping us to continue to spread that message, because many other people don't really do that. And so with that, big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the next one.
Also, real quick, I'm going to jump out of order real quick. This one goes to Exton Man, who puts in a 5 and says, "Thanks for straightening out your relationship with Matthew. I thought he might be your stepdad. Keep up the good work." I'm glad we got this straightened out as well. I am not the enforcer's father. I'm also his brother, not his cousin either. So everyone's all over the place with the relationship here. So I'm glad we straightened that out. Also, thank you very much for that support, by the way. And also, moving on to our next super chat, we have one from, guess who? It's going to be Nicholas Weishat, who puts in a $100 $20 donation. And thank you very much, Nicholas, for that support. He said, LSA, LSA, LSA. Take a question and greetings from Sweden.
And hello to Sweden. What's up, Ala? What's up, Sala? Dude, whenever you have your friend named Sala and you want to say what's up, you go, what's up, Sala? You know, like the town in Sweden. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope you're having a nice time up there in Sweden. Very interesting country. Very beautiful one as well. I think it's a really neat country. One day I want to visit it, me personally. And I also want to visit Austria because Neiman Bauer is there, and he really enjoys this channel a lot. And we were actually talking to him just a little moment ago. But I still thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be on air right now and keeping the LSA alive, because the LSA will never truly die, ever. And so with that, a big thanks to you once again, and we will make sure to take a live chat question in your honor. And so what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this live chat question right here is going to go to Knox Date, who says, what is your assessment on whether or not this will start World War III, evolving out of this conflict that's erupting between Israel and Iran?
I'm doubting that it'll start World War III. It certainly will be a regional war, but highly doubting that World War III will come out of this. The Iranians are largely on their own. The Russians really have no way to support them if a world war was to break out, and that world war would be on the losing side. Now, nuclear weapons does balance the playing field, because everyone will be destroyed simultaneously in a nuclear conflict, but beyond that, no one's going to get to that point, in my opinion. So I don't really think that the conventional war is going to turn into a world war and then a nuclear war. I think this is going to remain a very heavy and major regional war at best. Oh, well, at worst, actually. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion, at least in my analysis. But once again, take it with a grain of salt. It could be wrong. Like, it could entirely be wrong. It was wrong last night about the Iranians not attacking Israel. I said they probably weren't. They literally did it immediately, so they could be wrong. But I'm still assuming that this will most likely only be a regional war and not a world war. And so, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here, we got one from Mr. Lunchtime, who puts in a $20 donation of his lunch money, and thank you very much, Mr. Lunchtime, for making that sacrifice. And he says, great work, guys, and here's a few bucks for some tacos, and to take a question from the chat, and stay toasty, my friends.
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I got to thank you so much, Mr. Lunchtime, for putting a few bucks in for some tacos. I actually could use some tacos right now. I'm starving. And by the way, I'm just letting y'all know this. Right now, we are not getting a lot of breaking news out of the area at the moment. We're probably, well, actually, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. It's not going to be probably. This is going to be definite. We are going to be moving the stream towards rounding out. So we're going to be answering all of the super chats that we have and some live chats, and then rounding this thing out and then getting ready for, well, here's what we're going to do, because I'll be honest with y'all, yesterday I didn't really have a break from doing this thing. I was kind of doing it all day. Today I was actually supposed to be talking to an orchestra, and this kind of threw that all out the window because all of this started to happen and go on. So, you know, we had to kind of get to this first and then that second. So I think, to be entirely honest with y'all, what we're going to do is round out this stream, and if Israel starts to strike Iran tonight, we will be running a second stream. If they don't, we're not going to be running a stream on Ukraine, because I kind of just want to make sure that we can have a little bit of a breather and a legitimate break, because, you know, if we don't really have a legitimate break, we're going to be going nonstop for like 2 straight weeks, and that burns us out really quickly. Like, you kind of have to have like a little bit of a recharge time at nighttime, at least some point of the week, or else things are going to get absolutely insane, like as far as the wear down. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be rounding out this stream for now. We're going to be answering all the super chats that we have. We're also going to be answering some live chats, and we may run a stream tonight if Israel strikes Iran. If Israel strikes Iran, a stream will run. If Israel does not strike Iran, we are just going to compile all of the news for Ukraine for the past 48 hours and then cover that tomorrow at the 10 p.m. Eastern stream that we usually run tomorrow. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Michelle Esquera, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Michelle, for that support. I said always on your side with much love.
Hey, and thank you so much for always being on our side with much love, Michelle Esquera. And thank you once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And so thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Scott Clemens, who puts in a 20 and says LSA is 21st century Radio Free America. And as a child of the 60s and 70s, I went to sleep to them, and you find that need. And I found you on day 436.
Man, day 436. That sounds like a really far time into the channel, Matthew, but crazily enough, that's like 400 something days ago. Like, that's crazy when you think about it. It's like, say what?
That's a long time ago. That's over a year.
Man, I'm telling you what, while your microphone didn't really pick you up, because I heard, I was like, what? I was like, huh? I was like, what do you mean, man? But still, I got to thank you so much for the support. You've been here for an incredibly long time. Like, that's not even close to being an old guard, Scott, but that's still over a year and a half, which is crazy to think that's kind of the case these days. But a huge thanks to you once again and helping this channel to keep on running, because folks like you, Scott, help to make this thing possible and keep it running. And thank you so much for the high praise as well, because we put a lot of work and effort into this thing, literally to the point that sometimes, like over the past few days, we literally have like no life at all, because we're just sitting here waiting for the news to come out so we can tell all of y'all about it. But a big thanks to y'all once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also real quick, I think I missed Zyper Sniper 1's super chat. That must have been one of the ones that came in super early. So sorry about that, Zyper Sniper, but real quick to cover that one, he put in a $20 support, and he said coffee fund for the enforcers, and you might need it with this news coverage. And I think we will at this point. We'll need the tacos and the coffee together at this point because it's been a long one. But thank you very much, Zyper Sniper, for that support, seriously speaking. And Enforcer, what say you?
And thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And I got to thank you so much for supporting the coffee fund, because we desperately need coffee. Like, badly. Like, very badly. Long-lasting coffee. But still, huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one's going to go to David Kotke, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you, David, very much. He says, do you think Iran will pull their people out of the nuclear plans?
Probably not, because they probably want them to be martyred, honestly. Like, that's kind of how Iran works. That's something that a lot of people don't really understand. And it's something that led a lot of people to saying really goofy things when I really went on, like, my rip against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip earlier. One second, folks. I think I'm about to sneeze. Okay, I don't think I am. So, this is something that led a lot of people not to understand something. But with... And when I say this, I'm not talking about religion. I'm just going to explain the kind of fervor that goes behind this ideology. With radical Islamism, there is a trend towards being martyred. Like the radicalization of Islamic extremists is so extreme. A lot of them find it to be good to die. Like, if they end up being martyred, it's good to die. And even if they're martyred and their names aren't even really remembered, as long as it just propels their cause forward, and polarizes people to join their cause, they will die for it. And a lot of people don't get that. And so when you see, and this is what I was saying earlier, and this is something that a lot of people don't know. Yes, Israel does end up killing a lot of Palestinian civilians, usually whenever they conduct any kind of an operation in the Gaza Strip. But here's the reason why. The Israelis will say, leave the city of Gaza, go south towards Han Yunis, go down there and you'll be safe. And so then a lot of Palestinians will sit there and go, I hate the Israelis and I hate the Jewish people and I don't want them to win. So I'm going to stay here. Like, I'm just going to completely refuse the evacuation orders and I'm going to stay in the city of Gaza because it's going to make it a lot more difficult for them to fight. And if it makes it more difficult for them to fight, they're going to just eventually end up killing a whole bunch of us here in the city of Gaza. And if they do that, we are going to end up dying, and Hamas and everyone else in the Gaza Strip is going to say that we died and they were martyrs for our cause. They are showing how evil and sick the Israeli people are and the Jewish people are, and for that reason, more people ought to hate Jews, and they ought to hate Israel, and they ought to join Hamas, and they ought to continue on the fight against the Israelis and try and slaughter as many of them as they can. That is a very big mental play that comes into this thing. That really comes into all of them. That's not just Hamas in the Gaza Strip. That's also Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. That's also Iran inside the Islamic Republic. A lot of them do that. And also I see some people saying not all of them have a true choice. And that's true. Not all of them have a choice. Like, some of them are forced to stay, whether they like it or not, because, you know, not everyone's of the same cloth. There are many people with many different stories, but a lot of these people think that way. That's why you'll see that some of them end up becoming in no better sense of the word, suicide bombers, or they end up conducting something like 9/11 and Al-Qaeda, because martyrdom is considered to be a very high and a very honorable accomplishment to make, generally because of their radicalized ideology. It's a lot like people who, in Soviet times, in the Soviet Union, would consider it a good thing to die in the name of communism and the name of Bolshevism. Kind of the similar thing, because once you get an ideology radicalized enough, you actually get to the point that most of its members are radicalized so extremely that they would willingly die. In fact, they would love to die so that way their death could further propel their cause forward. That is largely kind of the truth. And I see someone saying, you've been listening to too much IDF propaganda. No, I have not, because we've watched footage of how these areas work. That's how it works. Like, I don't know why people act like I'm just coming at this like I was born yesterday. We've been watching this for a year. Like, we haven't been reporting on it a lot, but I've been observing this for an entire year. And you will see the Israelis drop the knocks on the roof, letting them know they're about to get bombed. And no one will leave that building. Why? Like, why won't any of them leave the building? The Israelis just gave them a notice that the building's about to get leveled. They're about to get killed if they stay in the building. Yet some of them will leave, and a lot of them won't. And then it gets bombed. About 30 of them will die in the building, and then everyone wants to come around and go, oh, this is a tragedy. Look at Israel going out of its way, killing these innocent people. Why did they stay in the building? They obviously knew it was about to get bombed. Everyone on the street knew it was going to get bombed because they all sat around and filmed it on their phones. So, you know, with that, that's the thing. Like, this isn't me trying to make it sound like all of these deaths are justified, because, you know, they're still civilians, and that's not great. But at the same time, that's kind of a reality that the Israelis have to deal with, and it's one that we also have to deal with as well, especially when we're talking about the nuclear reactors in Iran. Iran will know that that these nuclear research reactors are going to be targeted here in a little bit, and I will put money on it that none of these people will be evacuated. Because if they die as martyrs, they're going to die as great martyrs. I mean, they're going to die martyrs of a weapons program that was going to create nuclear weapons that were going to finally lay waste to, in the Iranians' mind, those wicked Israeli Jews in Israel. And so they are going to be martyrs of an unbelievable kind. So if they stay in that nuclear research reactor, that's even better in Iran's mindset because of how radicalized the ideology is. So as far as it goes, I don't think there's going to be any evacuation at the nuclear research reactors. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But only time will tell. They are going to get hit probably in a couple of hours, and then we'll see. And if they are hit, that's going to really back up my affirmation here. If it doesn't, then oh well. And I was wrong, and then we'll have to reassess that. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and I thank you once again for the support, David, and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. Also, really quickly, before I move on from this, I see some people saying that all of Islam is this and all of it is that. Not necessarily the case. That's not true. The radical Islamic factions are pretty freaking radical, but that's kind of a lot like the IRA in Ireland in the Troubles. You know, they got really radicalized. They start doing crazy, heinous things. It really just happens whenever any ideology heads down a very radical route. This starts to happen. So it's not that the whole region, like, it's not that, like, Islam is like a stain on the earth. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that radical Islamism or radical Islamic factions will be martyred. They look forward to being martyred. It's a big thing to them ideologically that they are martyred. So they will do anything to get themselves in the line of martyrdom. That's just always a fact. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one goes to Invictus, who puts in a $30 donation, and thank you very much, Invictus, as well, for that support. They said, I'm coining the phrase, the West versus the rest.
That's a pretty good one, actually. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And there really is a lot of people in the West. It's a very huge sphere. It's the biggest one that's ever been seen on the face of this planet. And it's really nice to know that the West does stand united against all evil together. And so with that, a big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well, Invictus. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Vadim Rosenberg, who puts in a $20 support, and I don't see a comment attached to it, but thank you very much, Vadim, for that support and helping to keep our channel running and the news flowing. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta thank you so much for the support, Vadim Rosenberg. It didn't throw in a comment, but the support means a lot, and it helps us to keep this channel running and make this thing possible. And so a huge thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kong, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you, Kong, as well. He said, 2 daytime live streams in as many days, and long live the LSA, with regards from Pushlish, Ontario, Canada. Sincerely, Rob, and please take a croissant from the chat if appropriate.
And thank you so much for the support, and being from Pushlish in Ontario, Canada. Really cool, actually. Sounds German. Did y'all have anything to do with the Jaegers that ended up going up into Germany and living there? Let's see. Lynch in Ontario. Where is this? This would be close to the place. This would be close to the place because in the Revolutionary War, they brought over some Germans from Germany, from one of the German princely states, to fight in the Revolutionary War. And some of those were actually from Hesse-Kassel, and they were called the German Jaeger units, and they were made up of German hunters that would hunt on the prince's estates, and they came over to fight. They didn't really do that well. A lot of them ended up getting killed and curb stomped, and then the remainder of them literally just went to Canada and then set up settlements there and lived there all the way up until the modern day. They're kind of like the vine and olive colonies of Canada, which is kind of cool. But anyways, beyond that, let's take a look at the pictures. Oh, little birdie, little big birdie, big birdie.
That's a pudgy.
Man, that bird would be pudgy. What else do we have here, man? We have we have the deer.
That deer on the left was kind of goofy a little bit. Like, oh.
Man, that deer does look goofy. And then we got the big bird. We got the big pudge. And then what else do we have? We have another deer, and we have another deer. Very, very a large amount of deer, actually. Let's see here. What else do we have? We have another deer. And we have bird. Not pudgy bird, we just have bird. But still, really cool place. Not bad. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And thank you so much once again for being one of our folks out here. And we will make sure to keep safe and have a pizza on you. And so with that, thank you so much once again. Actually, we'll have a croissant on you. And thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we will take a live chat. And so what do we got, Matthew?
And this live chat goes to Tom Fletcher, who says, do you have an update on the evacuations of Lebanon, American and allies?
And I got to thank you so much once again for the support and in helping this channel. I don't know why I'm going into that spiel. I'm getting brainwashed here to go into that spiel. Let's see. There are no evacuations happening in Lebanon. The U.S. Embassy has told every single American citizen there, you're on your own, find a way out. And that's largely because they don't really know how to get them out. Weirdly enough, I don't know how that works, but that's what they're saying. They don't know how to get them out. To be entirely honest, though, they should have been out earlier. Like, I think that we were conducting evacuations that were being supported by the Department of State a while ago, and then people just stayed. And at that point, you know, the U.S. government, like it ends up kind of being this as a fact. The U.S. government is going to put America as a nation at a disadvantage because of an individual's poor choices. And so that's kind of what it's come down to at this point. So there's really not a lot of evacuations being made at all at this point. In fact, there's none. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Alan McMillan, who put in a 10, along with Mitchell Weatherby. Also, Holy DCE put in a 10 as well, along with Knit. And we appreciate it, Alan, Mitchell, Holy, and Knit for that support. And I don't see any comments attached to those, but we do indeed appreciate the support because it's the support that keeps the channel running in the background, and we appreciate it. And we also have a $10 support from Paul A. Webb. He said, I've been here since the start of the Ukraine war, guys. And sorry, this is my first super chat. He said, you guys are amazing, and I watch you every day, and keep up the good work, keep safe, and have a pizza on me.
Hey, and thank you so much for support. We will have a pizza on you. And thank you so much for supporting the channel. No one has to support it. No one has to keep this thing running. But I do thank you so much for enjoying it and supporting it and helping it to be possible, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. We wouldn't be able to make it reality every single day. And I got to thank you so much once again for supporting it. You don't have to, but you did. And we're thankful for it. We really are. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And oh my goodness, we have another bot here. Bam! And they're gone. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $10 support from David. And also, thank you very much, David, for the support. But we do not get into bashing people's religions and stuff like that. We don't do that here. But thank you very much for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you for the support. We don't get into bashing religion. Just a little bit of a disclaimer. We're Christians, so, you know, like, saying that might actually be a little bit offensive to us. Not that I'm going to take offense to it, but if I did want to, we kind of could. You know, like, I don't really get into the whole thing of religion, you know, and you can kind of argue that fanaticism of any ideology, whether it be religious or not, can end up leading to pretty bad results. Because I think, if I remember correctly, communists have killed more people than anyone else believing in any other ideology in history. And I think that they actually professed no religion at all. So going off of that, I think it's just kind of largely the rule and the standard that it's really just radicalism of any ideology that can create heinous acts. It's not just religion. That would, you know, that would be a little bit skewed, like, in my opinion. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Thank you once again for the support, though. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Kush, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Kush, for that support. It said, by the way, did you guys hear about Havana syndrome was caused by Russian agents using pulsed microwaves? The CIA tried to wipe it under the rug. And one individual here did a good video on it yesterday. Now, Kush, I did know, we both know about Havana syndrome. That was covered extensively by actually the mainstream media on that one. So I did hear about it. But I didn't ever get the result that it was pulsed microwaves being confirmed by Russian agents. To my knowledge, I thought maybe they weren't able to get to the bottom of what it was, and they just were like knowing it was causing symptoms with somebody. In fact, I heard some person say it was simply a psychological thing, like people were just imagining it, and it was like a mass insanity or something. I don't know what the truth about that was, but something fishy was happening with it because it was happening to only government officials in hostile places, and also some places here in the U.S. as well. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say that's very interesting to hear. We kind of did assume that it was something to do with the Russians or the Chinese, but that's very interesting to hear that someone actually did put a documentary out on it, and I will try and check it out. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one. And we have someone here, Matthew, who's late to the news. Do you see it? Breadbasket. Where huge explosions in Israel. Bull. You were here 4 hours after they happened, bozo. Like, if you want to actually see the explosions happening, maybe you ought to be on time for the big major historical events, because I sadly can't alter time to where the explosions happen right when you get on air. So why don't you rewind, I don't know, 4 hours, 3 hours at this point, and you'll be able to go see it. That's a dumb take, though. Really sad. Very sad. You need... Oh, like, dude, I'm turning you into the team you thing, man. Wow. Dumb take. Really sad. Do work. Or something like that. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to B. Wilder, who puts in a very generous $100 donation.
Dang.
And thank you very much for that massive support. You're the third largest super chatter of the day, and we appreciate that. They said LSA rocks, and thank you for your coverage in the time of conflict, and rock on.
And thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running B. Wilder, because the LSA does rock. It is an amazing organization made up of amazing folks. And thank you so much for enjoying our coverage and wanting us to rock on, because thanks to folks like you and your unbelievable support, we will be able to rock this thing on. And so, huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to the most flame 30K, who puts in a 10 and says, hey! I wasn't really expecting a response from Iran, as it seems they were backing off. But I've seen the missile barrage, and that changed my perspective.
And I gotta thank you for the support of the most flake 30K. And I was really not expecting a response from Iran either. And then they went and flung 200 ballistic missiles at them, which is twice as much as they did last time. It was only 100 last time. Now it was 200. And that was actually kind of shocking, to be entirely honest. But still, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who helped make this thing possible. And so, huge thanks to you once again. And we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one here is going to go to... hold on just a second. Let me see here. I'm seeing some news here that's coming out. I don't know if we've seen those. I'm retweeting this video, unfortunately. It shows something happening near an air base near Tel Aviv. I'm not sure. This looks like it could be old, but take a peek at it.
It's old.
Yeah, we'll see what's going on with that.
It's old. We just reposted that like a little while down, like about an hour ago.
Okay, just making sure. It looked new based on that like thumbnail they were using. But anyways, jumping into our next one here, we have a $10 super chat from Hans Eriksson, and thank you very much, Hans, for that support as well. He said that the Western world must stand united in this now, and thanks for going live and showing this from Sweden.
And thank you so much for the support, Hans Eriksson, all the way from Sweden. And thank you so much for really appreciating our coverage and it being live on the spot. We got to it again before most mainstream news outlets. We just keep on winning. Like you can't stop us from winning. We're always winning. There's no stopping to the winning. And I'll tell y'all something. I wonder how much we won yesterday because I'm very, very curious in that. I am very, very curious, and I'm interested, as a matter of fact. I want to know, where were we in the ratings? Let's see here. We were number 78 yesterday.
Hey, look at that! Hey! Hey, wait a minute. Oh, wait, I think the U.S. president's speaking. Hold on, let's see here. Let me try to find it real quick. Let's see here. That would be on the White House's site. Let's see, White House. Let's see, live. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything on it. Let me see if I can go jump to a different one. So I don't know where that information is coming from. I'm not seeing the president speaking, and I don't see any plan for him to speak right now. So if someone has a source on that, let us know, or otherwise it could be maybe misinformation. I don't know. But anyways, Enforcer, were you saying something when I interrupted?
No, I forgot it at this point entirely anyways. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
So this one goes to Scott Kemp, who puts in a $10 support, and thank you very much, Scott, for that support as well. He said, at a time like this, you guys are priceless.
Hey, thank you so much for supporting the kind words, Scott Kemp. And actually, folks like you are priceless because you help us to keep this thing rolling. And if it wasn't for y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this show possible for about 150,000 people at this point. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that this addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kachulian343, who puts in a 10 as well, and says, I do feel that Israel has done some nasty things, but the reality is, this is a war where a woman with a swaddle cloth might have a baby or might have a bomb, and they want people to die, and they want martyrs.
That's exactly what I've been saying, and that's exactly what anyone in the Middle East learned back when we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. Everyone over there started to mistrust the locals because you never knew if they were going to just end up martyring themselves as a suicide bomber. You couldn't let them get close to fobs or anything like that, or cops, as they were sometimes called. But still, that's entirely true. People don't realize that, but these radical factions, they will martyr themselves very easily, like wildly easily. It's not even a thought for them. They will do it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to No Narc for putting in a $10 donation, and also Notorious GRG for putting in a 10 as well. No comments attached to either one, but huge shout out to the both of you, and we appreciate it very much. And we also have a 10 from Tom Exman, who says, thanks for the update.
And thank you so much, Tom Exman, for enjoying the update and supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 10 from Rangers Rule, who says, thank you, and do you believe that China may try something with all U.S. assets covering multi-areas?
I don't think so. I think the Chinese are still kind of holding back. They don't really have the military abilities to conduct an invasion of Taiwan yet. That'll be the late 2020s if they do, so we'll probably not see them doing anything here in the near future. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Rod Dorman, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Rod. He said, not often I get a chance to see the live while I'm awake, and thanks for all you do, and no question.
Hey, and thank you so much for enjoying what we do, and thank you for supporting and helping to keep on running, because it's folks like you who help to make this thing possible, no question. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And big shout out to Oleg USA for putting in a $10 donation without a comment, and we appreciate it, Oleg, and thank you very much for supporting the channel. And we also have a 10 from Andrew Shank, who says, if this thing speaks it of control, let's see, do you think China will side with the West, or will they go all in with their support of Iran and Russia?
They will probably sit it out because they don't really want to cause a lot of financial fallout for themselves, economic fallout. They're already in kind of a precarious spot, so they don't really want to rock that boat too much. much, they'd probably just sit back and do nothing. They wouldn't join us. They wouldn't join them. They just kind of sit back and ask everyone to calm down and kind of come up with some sort of a peace resolution of a sort, because that's what they're doing in Ukraine right now, and that's also really what they're doing in every single situation worldwide. They're trying to look like the good neighbor citizen country that China likes to project itself as on an international stage, while on the local stage, they end up intimidating and bullying every single country near to them. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and helping us to keep this thing running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to MMM Martin 261, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Martin, for that support. He said, given we've never seen it tested, would a nuke popping off at hypersonic speed create the nuclear flame that throws a stream from St. Louis to Chicago? And would the head fizzle with inertia?
That is a very technical question. I don't know if I can answer that one, because I just don't know enough about a nuclear warhead exploding at a hypersonic speed to be able to answer that properly. So I would have to actually say, I'm going to have to declare ignorance on that one, but I still thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Wyatt Logan, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Wyatt, for that support as well. And they said, thanks for keeping us updated.
And thank you so much for supporting the channel and helping us to keep all of y'all updated. It is a pleasure. It truly is. And I got to thank you so much once again, because if it was not for folks like you, we would not be able to make this thing possible. And so big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, huge shout out to Opus for putting in a $5 donation and saying thanks for the swift information and forces. And thank you, Opus, for supporting us to get this information out. And also, huge shout out to Juan Casillas for putting in a 5 as well. And also, Opus put in another 5 and said it's time to build the third temple, they said.
I don't know what that one's about, but I still thank you for the support, and thank you so much for enjoying our swift information and updates, because we are always more than happy and honored to be able to put them out. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Phobos Anomaly, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Phobos, for that support. He said, I turned on my alert app an hour ago, and half an hour later, my phone went crazy with alerts. And what are the chances of war between Israel and Iran going World War III?
It's somewhat low in my opinion. I think it's going to remain a regional war, but the war in between them has started at this point right now. So with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well, at least in my opinion. I thank you once again for support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Nate36, who puts in a 5 and says, Russia has made statements that Israel should leave Lebanon immediately, and Russia should take their own advice and leave Ukraine immediately.
Yeah, that is a good one, Nader. I agree with you on that one, 100%. And so with that, I thank you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for helping us to keep this channel running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Ateshian, who puts in a 5 and says, according to Amir Safardi, Israel is going to respond big time, big league.
And let's see, Israel is going to respond big league from what we know. We're kind of waiting for that. And also to let y'all know this again, we're rounding out the stream right now. We're answering all of our super chats, and we're going to answer live chats as well. And then once we round this stream out, we may or may not have a stream tonight. If Israel attacks Iran, we are going to once again create another breaking news stream and come out live with that information when it happens. If that doesn't happen, we're going to be taking the night off so that way we can kind of have a little bit of a breather moment, so that way we're not getting like too burned out and exhausted over the week. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, and thank you once again everyone for y'all's understanding. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Mr. Dial once again, who puts in their second support of the day. And thank you very much, Mr. Dial, for that $10 support.
Hey!
Excuse me. They said, do you think Zelensky should try the Chinese balloon trick on Russia a couple of times?
Maybe. I mean, what harm could it cause? I would say yeah. I mean, do it, please. But still, thank you once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Jabba, who puts in a 10 and says, hello from Wolfenbüttel, Germany, and Google my town in Wolfenbüttel, and is every drop of Jägermeister made?
Oh, no way. Oh, no. Herman Goering must have been here a lot because he was a big fan of the Jägermeister. But let's see here. Really pretty town, though. Largely preserved.
Nice.
Intact even from World War II. Saved from the scourge of war. That's actually really impressive, actually, for a German town, especially in this part of Germany. But wow, really pretty. I like it. So every single drop of Jägermeister is made here. Are you sure about that? Graffiti. But I'm interested in this. This is where Jägermeister's made, folks. If y'all ever wanted to know, where does it come from? It comes from here. I've never had Jägermeister, to be honest with you all, so it's kind of a bit of an enigma to me. But that is actually pretty cool. So what's around this place? So we got a giant industrial area over here. This appears to be probably some sort of a steel mill or a factory of a sort, right by Wolfenbüttel. And then right up here we got Braunschweig. Is there a Train Sim World route that runs through this area? No. Interestingly enough, to let y'all know this, I got a new Train Sim World route last night, actually. And I have to tell people this, Matthew, this is actually really cool. I found out it's the only Swiss, like, standard gauge route they have, and it goes from, Lucerne right here up to, Circe up here, and it goes along the length of this lake. It's really cool looking, actually. It's pretty neat. And I was like, that's actually really, really impressive. I was like, this is a beautiful route. Really short, though. It was only like 12 miles, which was kind of sad. But also, another thing I wanted to show y'all really quickly. Let me see if I can find this. Where was it? I think I have it up here. Dang. I don't, do I? Let me see here we go. Here it is. So from Toronto up to somewhere around here, it was the route. Wait a minute, Ospicio Bernina. That's it. So there's a little Train Sim World route that runs through here, Matthew, and I have to show you this one. This is a little narrow gauge route, and it was insanely beautiful because this is where the route runs through. Is a place like this. It's literally this, actually.
That'd be a good route. It's very scenic looking.
Man, it was insanely scenic. I was like, man, like I gotta get you into Train Sim World because it was so cool. You actually drive this little train right here up and down the route. Really cool.
Yeah, I like that train too. It has that nice Euro look to it. I like that.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a miniature DB Talent 2, honestly, from like Deutsche Bahn, really.
I'll have to take your word on that because I'm not sure what a Talon looks like.
One second. DB Talent 2. Here we go. This one.
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of does look like it. The nose is a little bit more aerodynamic on this one, but yeah, pretty similar.
Yeah, you know, German trains are kind of neat until you go back into like the 80s and the 70s, and then they all looked kind of ugly, not gonna lie. Modern German trains, though, are really neat. Like, I like them a lot. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it well. Sorry to go down a little rabbit hole there, but I thought I'd just share pretty cool stuff. But still, big thanks to you once again for support and sharing that. And also, thank you for being one of our viewers from Germany. And so with that, thank you once again for the support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Richard De Vries, who puts in a $12 donation. And thank you very much, Richard, for that support. He said, what a first day for the new Secretary General of NATO. And that's true. Mark Rutte is the new Secretary General. Jens Stoltenberg is officially out, and Mark is in. So he's the new guy, and this is his first day. But Israel's not in NATO, though, I don't think, are they?
No, Israel's not in NATO. They don't meet the geographical parameters to be in it.
Yeah, so it's actually not that bad of a day for Mark on his first day. It's hectic for like people around the world because it's just a bad thing when the war starts popping off like this. But for Mark, it's really not that bad, I don't think. But Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, a big thanks to you for the support. I guess it would be kind of a busy day for him on just kind of keeping apprised of information outside of NATO. But beyond that, for NATO, it's kind of just a normal day. But still, big thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that well. Also, Sticklebrick 2003 said Train Simulator Classic's where it's at. I got over 4K hours. I wanted to get back into Train Sim Classic because it has a lot more routes and a lot more stuff you can do with it, to be honest. Like Train Sim World, though, like all of those look better graphically, but Train Sim Classic has like all of the stuff that you could ever want in it. Problem is that when I played it again, I like maxed out the graphics and it looked horrendous. Like it was so bad. And then when I tried to upgrade the graphics to max, for some reason, I don't know why, because everything else runs fine on max graphics on my computer. It was running at like 20 frames a second, which is like, it's like a slideshow nearly. And I was like, I just don't like that. So then I just went back to Train Sim World 5 and I've been staying on it since. But I will agree though, Train Sim Classic is really where it's at, like for like all of the different like varieties of stuff you can do. But Train Sim World 5 is still really good. I love it. Like it's graphically like very nice. But still, with that, thank you once again. And we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here is going to go to, let's see, it's going to be a $20 support from John Jero Ocampo. And thank you very much, John, for that support. And sorry if I butchered your name there, because I have a feeling I did. But thank you very much, John, for that $20 support. And no comment to address from what I could tell. Let me go back and take a look. No comment. But that is his first ever super chat on the stream, so huge shout out for that. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta say, thank you so much once again for support, John, and helping this channel keep on running. Your first super chat ever. And I got to thank you once again for that, because while you didn't throw in a comment, the support means a lot and helps us to keep this channel running. And so a huge thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Caviar, who puts in a 5 and says, how did Israel have 2 to 3 hour notice of this attack and still fail to intercept any missiles and LSA?
Good question. I don't really know. That's I don't mean to sound like Major General Ryder here, but that's something that you'd actually have to ask the Israelis about, because I have no clue how that would have happened. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a $5 super chat from Blood Monkey, who says, Sky News reports Iraq resistance groups to target U.S. bases in Iraq if the U.S. joins Israel's response to this attack.
That's a pretty honest kind of an assessment. That's what we've seen in the past so far at Ot Tanf and the Victory Base in Baghdad. So I would assume that that's probably true. And I got to thank you for the support and sharing that with us. And thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 5 from Siri, who says, I'm mad. These bad folks did this on Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday. Happy birthday to him. And thanks for these updates, Enforcer Bros and XO from Oslo.
And thank you so much for the support, Siri. And a happy 100th birthday to Jimmy Carter, a former president of the United States. And the reason why it's so big that it's his 100th birthday, this will actually shock a lot of people. No U.S. president in the entire history of this country has made it to their 100th birthday. He is the first president in our history who was ever celebrated his 100th birthday. So that's actually a really big thing. Like as far as historical information goes about U.S. presidents, he's the only one who's made it this far. So that's actually pretty crazy. So a happy birthday to Jimmy Carter. I hope he's having a good one. I've heard that his health hasn't been great lately, so we may unfortunately have to see another ceremonial funeral for another lost president. But still, huge thanks once again for support. Huge thanks for pointing that out, because it is a really historical day for that occasion. But with that, thanks once again, and we are on to the next one.
And we've got a $5 super chat from Hunter Jenkins, who says a Russian command aircraft is over Caspian Sea.
And interesting to hear. Usually one of them is, like an A-50 is always out there somewhere. So thank you once again for support and sharing that, Hunter. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have a 5 from DL, who puts in that 5, of course, and says, thanks for keeping us up to date, guys.
And thank you so much for the support, DL, and thank you so much for enjoying our constant updates, because we are always happy to give them. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And we've got a 5 from Matthew Foxtrot, who says, born too early to deploy to the Middle East, and born too late to deploy to the Middle East. Born just in time to deploy to the Middle East.
Yeah! Yeah! It's perfect. It really is. Like, that's exactly how it's going to go. And I gotta tell you, Matthew Foxtrot, not Matthew, the co-host, but Matthew Foxtrot.
Hello.
It is a perfect time. You were born just in time to deploy to the Middle East. And so with that, thank you once again. And we are on to the next one. And oh, hello there.
And this one also goes to Matthew Foxtrot, who puts in a 5 and says, I don't understand. The U.S. doesn't want to declare war on Iran, but I hate how we are just acting like a scared dog, and the U.S. can say it has sides without war.
And I'd agree with that completely. I think that's 100% true. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support and keeping this channel running. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to the Dela Cruz, who puts in their first ever super chat on the stream, a $5 support. And thank you very much, Dela Cruz, for the support. He said, hey guys, Slava Israel, and first super chat in the channel, and just watch the mainstream media, and you're like 2 hours ahead of most of them, and keep it up.
Hey, and I love to hear it. That's what we pride ourselves on, is having a lot of accurate news out very quickly. We beat the mainstream news in that category every single day. And I got to thank you so much once again for enjoying that and supporting it for your first time ever and helping it to be possible, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here. And so thank you once again, and we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Octavian Timarasanu, who puts in a $10 donation. Thank you very much, Octavian, for that support. He said, I actually caught you guys live streaming early, and if you have some time, can y'all please shout out the small town of Campbellford, Ontario? And I fell in love with this place in LSA Semper.
And let's see if we can. Campbellford, Ontario. Heavens. It's got a giant reservoir of a sort. Yes, it's a reservoir. Heavens. Let's see here. Where is this in Ontario? It is in like the middle of nowhere. It's like in between Ottawa and Toronto. So let's take a look at this thing and see what we got here. So we got a nice big reservoir here. We got a nice little Canadian town here. Not a bad place. Oh, looks like we got a little bit of a tree and a river. We got a dam here. Damn, that's a dam. And let's see here. What else do we have? We got this giant Canadian $2. That's one big $2 right there. And we've got this. And we have this. And we also have this lock. This cool lock. I like locks. I think locks are pretty neat. And this nice church. A very pretty church. Long-lasting church. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hope that does address that quite well. Quite well indeed. And I was just asked by Matthew, should we implement a super chat cutoff? And I honestly was about to ask you that. Literally, Matthew, right after I got done addressing that super chat, I was going to be like, Matthew, I think we need to do a super chat cutoff. And so here is what we're going to have to do, folks, because we are getting so many super chats, and we do want to round this thing out so we can go and eat and hopefully kind of have a little bit of a night off, to be honest. Hopefully nothing else happens in the Middle East where we have to come back and report on it immediately right now. But we are going to be instilling a super chat cutoff. So Jabba's €5 super chat that you were seeing in the live chat right now, that is the last super chat that we're going to be able to read off. We have gotten so many super chats. We literally are reading like an endless amount of them. I think there's about like 70 or 80 of them right now, and they're still coming in. So Jabba's super chat is going to be the last one read off. Donzark's, since it came in, since we're kind of saying this right now, y'all may have not heard it yet. We are also going to be reading off Donzark's as well. But any super chat beyond this point that is put in, we will not be able to read. It seems as though also, Matthew, we may have missed Paula McDonald's super chat.
Nope, it's coming up.
Okay, good. Okay. So with that, we're going to be reading every single one of them from Jabba's and Donzark's. Donzark's being the last one in the spreadsheet, but any super chat put in this point, beware, we will not be able to read it. If you do want to support this channel and help it to keep on running, you can come back tomorrow, because we will be running a live stream tomorrow, and support us then. But if you want your super chat to be read off, you will have to wait till tomorrow, because every single one that we have so far we're reading, but we're not going to be accepting any more beyond this point. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here, we have a $10 super chat from Denzarks, who just threw that in. And thank you very much, Denzarks, for that support. And they said, I just wanted it to keep on rolling. And on to the next one. And shout out to Clovis, California.
And a big shout out to Clovis, California, and a big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, and also, by the way, real quick, I'm seeing some people say, oh, you missed mine. Well, it's coming up. Trust me, we got a lot to go. Like, there's a plenty long list right here. So if we hadn't gotten to yours yet, trust me, it is coming up. And also, thank you very much for the support.
I want to give people a little bit of an idea of how many we have. Right now, like, this has been an insane day for super chats. There's 95 in the spreadsheet right now, just about. So if yours hasn't been read off, we are getting to it. It's just that the volume of super chats right now is so high. It's taking a while to get to each of them, but we are still getting to each and every one of them. We will read all of them off. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one, also real quick, let me actually get this thing typed out real quick, the super chat cut off, so if we have anybody new coming in, they will see it, and they won't get mad about not having it read off. So let me pin that real quick. And there we go. So with that, we're moving on to our next one, which goes to Jurgen Brunati. And thank you very much, Jurgen, for that $30 support. He said, keep up the good work, guys.
Hey, and thank you so much for enjoying this channel and helping it to keep on running all the way from the UK for the first time ever. And thank you so much for wanting us to keep up the good work and supporting it and helping it to be possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat here is gonna go to Nick Nelson, who puts in a 5 and says Iran's Revolutionary Guards say they've targeted 3 Israeli military bases in missile attack.
That's what we've heard as well. We know the Nevatim appears to have been hit pretty significantly, but we don't know about the other 2 bases that they claim to have hit as well. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. Thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Matt Borgerson, who puts in a 5 and says, it doesn't seem like the U.S. is going to do anything aside from defense and sanction again.
Honestly,
Matt, I think you're right. Honestly, like I seriously think you're right. The way the people were talking in the press briefings, it sounds like they're already dodging questions and backing off from their position that they were going to put significant retaliation on Iran for doing what they did today. It sounds like they're going to back off of this. This would definitely not be the first time we've ever backed out of a red line statement like that. It's becoming all too common and probably not. It's definitely not a good thing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would agree with that entirely as well. And it's very unfortunate, Matt, but hopefully we see that they don't actually do something like that, but the chances are pretty high they will. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, also real quick, we'll shout this one out since it's just a super chat. Shout out to Stephen LaChance for putting in that $20 support, by the way. And thank you very much for supporting our work as well. We appreciate it, Stephen. And also, we have a $5 super chat from Amaris Museniix. And thank you very much. They said, WP, finale stream on my time zone. Or whoopee, I think they meant to say. And I'm late to the party. And can you explain your obsession with bobcats? I love it. And the bobcats are honestly an inside joke. Like, I saw the little bobcat like symbol on the loss reports. It doesn't stand for just bobcats, by the way, if anyone's confused about that. It's special equipment. It can be bridge laying equipment, anything like that. But they put the bobcat symbol on there. So I turned it into like a joke, and it stuck. It stuck a lot. In fact, I've had viewers send me model bobcats that are on my shelf behind me right now. So the joke definitely stuck, and we still do it even to this day. But thank you very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And that would be my exact answer as well. And so with that, thank you once again for support, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, a big shout out to Smarzik and also Senji for putting in a $5 support each, and not including a comment, but thank you both very much for supporting the channel. And we also have a 5 from Bestet Furry, who puts in a 5 and says, if this escalates further, do you think the EU will join this theater?
I don't think the European Union will be joining. The European Union is an economic alliance and not a military one. A lot of people are always confused about that. Like, everyone keeps on hearing the EU is going to make its own army. That would be a NATO thing. NATO stands as our military alliance in Europe, not the economic and military, and EU is not a military alliance. It's only an economic one. So the EU would not be joining. It would be individual countries joining piecemeal for the large part, because also the NATO alliance and its protections do not expand into this area of the Middle East. And so I hope that does address that well. Thank you once again for support, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Dupper Bob, who puts in a 5 and says, fake sand, for example, recycled glass sand used in concrete, will be destroyed with long wave sounds. Hint, hint, Israel.
And a very interesting comment, Dupper Bob. I wonder what they would use that for. But still, thank you once again for support, and we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Famaz, who puts in a 5 and says, why are we live so early? What happened?
Iran tried to blow up Israel. That's like the whole summary. They tried to blow them up with missiles. About several hundred of them were fired, and it was kind of a big deal. And so with that, thank you once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Evanescent Wave, who puts in a 5 as well and says, thanks for the coverage.
And thank you, Evanescent Wave, for enjoying our coverage and supporting it and making it possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we got one from Get UFBR, who puts in a 5 and says, if you like nice train routes, look for the route from Chur to Arosa in Switzerland.
Oh, you silly little goose. You think I didn't have that one? I have that one. They actually have that one in Train Sim World, from Chur to Arosa through here. It's a really pretty route. Let me see if I can actually click y'all down on the train station down here, because they actually have like a mainline train station here. So I'll show it to y'all. Wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on. Hold up. I'm trying to think here. Oh, they just have all the pictures of the Ration Railway and the Bernina Express. That's actually pretty neat. But let me see if I can actually just get you all the Chur to Arosa thing here. This is really cool. So this is the train station at Chur, and this is also what the actual yard looks like. So they actually have a standard gauge main line that runs through here, but they also have the little Ration Railway narrow gauge trains that actually travel up and down from Chur to Arosa, up the Alps. They also have these older ones as well. I actually like these because they got a bit of character to them, but, you know, the newer ones are nicer, obviously. But, dang, let me see if I can actually go get you all a little picture here from one of the stations further up the line. Let's see. Okay, so it's going to be, like, down here. And so they go up here, and then they go up here. Oh, here we go. So this is a little viaduct that passes through this mountain range up here. So these are some of the views that you get from the train. It's really cool. It's a very, very cool place. Would love to see it. Really neat. But I do have this one in Train Sim World. Highly recommend the route. All the Swiss narrow gauge routes in Train Sim World are goated. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Matthew said, Matthew, I agree with you. I was trying not to go that long on that one. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Paula McDonald, who puts in a $5 donation. And thank you very much, Paula, as well, for that very generous support. And they said, check out the Presque Isle, Michigan, and Grand Lake, Michigan. And that's where I spent vacay and have summer home and cabin.
Oh, that's cool. And let's check out that Grand Lake in Michigan. In Grand Lake, Michigan. Let's check it out. Grand Lake in Michigan. Look at that. Grand Lake right there in Michigan. But still pretty cool. Let's take a look at the pictures. Oh, it's like a Grand Lake, Matthew. It's like a Grand Lake next to the Great Lake. And so with that, thank you so much once again for
support. Lake is grand, I'm telling you.
And I gotta say, really cool to know. I hope you had a fun time up there. And thank you so much once again for support, Paula McDonald, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here, right now. And so with that, thank you once again. And a big shout out to Gary Bott. Threw in the super chat after the cutoff. I'm still going to mention the super chat. Big thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Brent, who puts in a $5 support without a comment. And thank you very much, Brent, as well, for that very generous support. And we also have a 5 from Jabba, once again, who says, Google this, Jägermeister Factory, Germany, proof that Jägermeister is in Wolfenbüttel.
Jägermeister Factory. The Jägermeister Factory. Oh, well, there we go. Factory tour. Man, that deer's got the blessing of the Lord. Like, dude. Let's see here.
Logo right there.
Say what?
It's a fascinating logo right there.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it is in Wolfenbüttel. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. And so with that, thank you so much for giving support. I hope that does address that well, and that is really cool. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Juan Casellas, once again, who puts in a 3 and says, will that not create a vacuum for jihadists?
It kind of will, but you know, you kind of have to look at the short term with this thing because these people are only going to get worse. So you kind of have to like crush them and then let the power vacuum happen. They'll slowly build back up, but it won't be as bad as it is right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. I think he wants to give us support, Juan. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we also have another one from Juan. And he says, no Arab country has opened refugee camps, so I don't know.
It is a little weird how most of them haven't. Turkey did, though. Turkey actually does have a large amount of those camps. But yeah, it's a little interesting, you know? It's kind of what's going on here. But still, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Gintis, who puts in a 2 and says, with love from Lithuania, LSA.
And big love to Lithuania, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to David Lee, who puts in a 2 and says, thank you for correcting stupid people. Damn.
Hey, no problem at all, David Lee. We don't really like to do that here on this channel, but as they say in the drive-thrus at Chick-fil-A, it is my pleasure. And so with that, thank you once again. And we're on to the next one.
And up next, big shout out to Geochis for putting in a 2, along with William Sellis for also putting in a 2 without comments. But thank you very much, William and Geochis, very much for that support. We also have another 2 from Juan, who says, do you guys see Russia sending Wagner to Iran?
Probably some advisors, but not like an actual fighting force, because Wagner is pretty much completely out of Russia at this point and just in West Africa and Belarus alone. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that well. Big shout out to Jason Carney, by the way, who threw in a 1090. No comment, but we still thank you once again for support. Thrown in beyond the cutoff, though. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Elkasir, who puts in a 2. And thank you very much, Elkasir, for that support. It said, catching me off guard with these day streams, and LSA.
And thank you so much for the support, Elkasir, and helping this channel to keep on running. And it really is catching me off guard as well. Honestly, I'm kind of getting a little worn out. But still, thank you once again. I hope that does that well. I hope it does. And so with that, we are on to the next. Also, by the way, big shout out to Merry Christmas to Shitter's Fool. I would pull up a running train, but we have a super chat cut off right now, and we are both starving to death. And so we're trying to go and get something to eat and then come back to this maybe later if Israel strikes Iran, and we'll be taking the night off if Israel does not strike Iran. And so with that, I thank you once again for the support. Sadly, can't comment too much on it, though. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also shout out to Lookner's Air Fryer for putting in a €5 donation. We appreciate that very much as well. We would read that one off as well, but it is after the cutoff here, and we have to eat, or otherwise we will start frothing. But our next one here goes to Ian Phillips, who puts in a 2 and says LSA and hi from the UK.
And hello to the UK, Ian Phillips, and thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the last super chat, and then we'll be getting into a very small number of live chats, and then rounding this thing out.
And the last super chat here goes to Senshi, who puts in a 2 and says, "Greetings from the Czech Republic."
And hello to the Czech Republic? You mean the Czech Republic?
Oh, gosh.
Man, that starvation is really kicking in, man. He said the Czech Republic. Man, we're talking about them Chechens up in here. But still, a big hello to the Czech Republic. Really cool place. Love the Czech Republic. Jan Lipovsky, y'all's foreign minister, he actually follows us on Twitter. Mad respect for the Czech Republic. And I got to thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are now going to be moving on into 3 live chat questions and rounding this thing out. I can already knock out the Morse code decoders. The Morse code message is the same as last night. I didn't have time to modify it. So ding, 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 you hit it dead on the nail. And with that, we are on to the third to last question of this stream.
And this one goes to Positively DJ, who says, "What are your thoughts on the report of 200 missiles being launched by Iran? And do you think it was more than that?"
We think it is more than that. We think that's just the preliminary number that everyone's agreed to stick with at the moment. But it does seem like it was more than 200, at least from what we can tell. But still, that's pretty big. But with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the second to last question of the stream.
And also a huge shout out to Mama Mentality for that $2 donation, and we appreciate it very much. And we also have another live chat question, this time from AF Kaplan, who says, "Assuming Israel devastates Iran, do you think that that will knock out Iran's ability to help Russia with their attacks on Ukraine?"
It may impact it a little bit. It's not going to be a lot, though, because the Russians are licensed building most of the Shaheds these days inside of Russia. So it might impact it a little bit, but we're not expecting by much. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And we are on to the final question of this stream. And so who was the lucky last person through in the lucky last question of this stream?
And that viewer is David Long, who says, "Do you think that the situation in the Middle East might go limited nuclear?"
I'm doubting that greatly. I don't think it's going to be going nuclear at all. I think it's going to largely stay conventional, and that largely will be the case. And so with that, that is the last question that we'll be taking right there. Big shout out to Bowler Boy for throwing in a 20, and Jason Carney for throwing in a 149. And thank you both for enjoying what we do and supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. But with that, that is the end of the stream. Y'all are all dismissed. I'm just kidding. That is the end of the stream. I got to thank everyone so much once again for watching. We had about 14.5 thousand people here at the peak, and about 155,000 people have watched this news as it came out live. If y'all did enjoy, please make sure to subscribe. Hit that like button. Make sure to comment. Do all kinds of things. Anything. Everything. Long-lasting things. Because we are always here covering the news when it comes out. Now, I will tell y'all this, though, because I have to tell y'all this. We may or may not be running a stream tonight. We didn't really get a break yesterday. We haven't certainly gotten any kind of a breathing room today. And things have just kept on going on, like at a really fast pace. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with tonight's stream. And make sure to pay attention to this, because if there is not a stream running tonight, this is why. If we only have Ukraine war news to cover, we're not going to be covering it. There has been some interesting stuff happening in Ukraine, but to be entirely honest with y'all, we can kind of skip it and cover it all tomorrow in a 48-hour news segment. If Israel ends up responding to the Iranian attack that happened today and ends up striking Iran in just the next few hours, we will be live covering that. So if we run a stream tonight, it's going to be entirely on Middle Eastern news. We are not running a Ukraine war stream later tonight. We are only running a stream if things are still going on very quickly in the Middle East. Just letting y'all know that. So it's kind of a 50-50. I can't tell y'all for certain whether we're running a stream or not. It really depends on what happens in the Middle East. But if nothing is happening in the Middle East, we're not running a stream tonight. If they start blowing each other up again, we'll be running a stream tonight. And so with that, I will see you all maybe tonight, or certainly tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 48 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and also all the updates we will have on Israel. And so with that, good luck, good night, take care, stay safe, and slow Ukraine, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And thank you all once again for another fantastic stream. And once again, thank you all for the support today and helping to keep the channel running with the Super Chat support, and also simply smashing the like button as well. And of course, we will be scouring all of our news sources to see if anything is popping off. And if you want to keep up to date minute by minute, following our Twitter page is the best way to do that. And our Twitter handle is @It'sTheEnforcer. So be sure to go follow us over there. And also, we might see you all later this evening if that does pop off. And if it does, you'll be seeing a notification from us on pretty much every platform that we have. But once again, thank you all. Slav Ukraine, Hiram Slava, Yam Yisrael Chai. And with that, we'll see you later, and good night.
Yes.